Yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to Football Heritage TV. We've had a lively week. We're trying to keep it as lively for you as possible without Daniel Levy keeping it lively for us. Look, we've had many guests this week, but today we've got, it's Eugene from Spurs Swagen TV. Hello, good evening for you. Good evening for you. What's the time in Malaysia?
It's about 7 p.m. plus, right? And good afternoon to you, Savva, and of course, all the guys in the world, wherever you're watching, in Malaysia, Australia, Europe, America, right? And of course, good day to all you guys, wherever you are, right, guys?
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. I'm not sure there'll be many Australians. They're not my biggest fan, the Australians, with the whole debacle.
You'll be surprised.
Listen, apologies, everybody. Normally this is the 10 a.m. show. Apologies. Stewie had to go to the vets to have a little MOT. And I can tell you that he is in, the vet called him a distinguished gentleman. And Stewie is a pug, so he's never been called a gentleman before in his life. But he is in good health. Apologies yesterday. I meant to cancel my show last night. Forgot. I'm so sorry. So people were messaging me going, are you all right? You haven't started your show. I was fine. I was cancelling the show. We'll get into it in a minute. Before we do, good morning to each and every one of you. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. We have got a couple of things. All the house rules. Please make sure you know where your nearest fire exit is in your house in case the stream gets so heated that it goes on fire and you need to leave quickly. Let's just, I've walked into some super stickers, so big up to everyone. First of all, to Mario 2012, my man with his great big farm out in Kent. Big up to you, Mario. I'm still waiting for my invite, Mario. Still waiting for the invite. Has said, let's go and fund Savva so he can buy Spurs. Do you know what I would do? I would buy Spurs and then I would do exactly the same as Levy just to see how much hate I could get. I'd buy no one but teenagers. Big up to you, Mario. Thank you very much. Big up to Facts Only, who said, so some will leave on a free. We needed freshness. Eugene and I will talk about this because I've seen the reports today that some will stay, but that is the question, isn't it? Are we going to let another player go on a free where we could get money now? We'll talk about it. Thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate that. Big up to Scott Colliver, who's just put in a super stick. I love it. Silent, but appreciated. Thank you so much, Scott. Really appreciate you, my man. Australia. Australian. Big up to you. Oh, we've got the Brennan Johnson fan club is in the house. Emma Morton wants to marry Brennan Johnson from the way she talks about him. Big up to Emma. Thank you very much. Another silent but appreciated super sticker. Thank you very much, Emma. Really do appreciate you for all the banter back and forth. And I have to get this one right. Cat thumped. Because if you get that the other way around, you get demonetized. Cat thumped. Thank you very much for the super sticker. I really appreciate you. Good morning and good afternoon to you. And big up to Phil Coys as well. The Matisse Tell fan club is in the house. Phil Coys is Matisse Tell. Emma is Brennan Johnson. Andy Lester, thank you very much for the super sticker. I don't know if he's part of a fan club, but he's here. We love him. We love everyone. Happy Friday to you all. Thank you very much. Eugene, let's start. Before we all know how much you love. Hang on, just quickly. Tweak has decided to chuck in a last minute an opening minute goal here. First minute corner, header in the bottom corner. Big up to you. Thanks, Tweak. Really appreciate that. Channel member as well. Lots of people have been asking me how to become a member. YouTube have made it really difficult now to do this. If you want to know, please ask and you can become a member. And we have member-only shows. Eugene, let's start without talking about Daniel Levy for the moment, because we all know how much you love Daniel Levy, our beloved leader and the head of Tottenham Hotspur. Let's talk about Son. The news this morning, it's not official. I haven't seen it from any sources where I go, okay, I truly trust that. But the noises is that Son has made the decision that he wants to stay for another year. I'll ask you this. Is this a good thing? Should it be Son's decision? And what would you do with Sonny?
All right, Savva, you know me, right? I'm from this part of the world in Asia, right? Son is like, I won't say a demigod, but highly respected and, I love him with all my heart. He brings me so much pride being the only Golden Boot winner from Asia, right? I take pride in that. Of course, Ange is the only Asian trophy winner for Spurs too, because nowadays we have to take Australia into Asia too. If you take it in the World Cup category, right? Australia is part of Asia too. But for Sonny is that I've been saying this for a long time, right? If we have to let him go, we have to let him go. And if during these times where, sorry to say, as I see it, if he's not good enough, he's lost his form or whatever, right? We need to replace him. But the sad part is that we have not been able to find an actual replacement for him. We saw that last season, right? No matter whoever we put on the left, whether it was Oda Bear, Richarlison, who else did we have on the left, right? It couldn't match up to what Sonny mostly he could do. But the sad part is that it is what it is, our club, right? We depend on Sonny because of this Korean market. And at the moment now, after winning the trophy, and if he wants to stay, I would not be unhappy about it, but I'm cautious because I would love him to stay and regain the form when he was playing with Kane, when it was during the Mourinho and Conte times. If he could reproduce that form and find a connection with another player like what he had with Kane, right? He would be a very useful, what you call a contribution in goals and goals assists for us. That's what I see. But the sad part is, of course, Sonny, a lot of people say it depends on his pace, blah, blah, blah. But of course, last year, we did see him not do what he usually does, right? We were so used to Sonny go down the wing, cut back, right? And cut on the edges of the penalty box and shoot with his right foot. You know, he does so often, but we didn't see that much of him last season. You could blame it on the tactics. It wasn't the way Ange wanted him to play, blah, blah, blah. So let's hope now he comes back. He has a chat with Frank, right? And of course, Savva, don't forget, right? We still have to wait until end of July when the Asian tour is over. Then maybe the real feelings will come up from the club.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
He was never going to go anywhere before we play in South Korea. Like,
Hong Kong.
You don't book a tour of South Korea with South Korea's most famous man and then sell him before that tour. So I think we know that.
No, Savva, it's not even you cannot say you're going to sell him either. You can't even have that rumor they're going to sell him. You can't say that. Yeah. You can't even have the inkling of thinking Sonny's going to be sold. You can't say that. Because if that falls in the Korean mind, you get an empty stadium.
Yeah, listen. Look, I think it's an interesting one because I'm conflicted with this. So from my point of view, I feel like, I'll be honest, Eugene, I've said this and people have a go at me for saying it, but you know me, I don't care. I'm a bit bored of seeing all these players we've seen for years now. And for me, I just felt like it was a good time to say, look, Sonny, you're 33. I think he's 33 years of age.
By next year.
In the club, you've been here for a decade. You've now got that trophy under your belt that you wanted. Let's see a new era at Tottenham Hotspur. But I also think that Thomas Frank will get more out of him than Angepostecoglou did. However, what that tells me is when people say, "Oh yeah, I want Sonny to stay," it almost lets the club off the hook a little bit, Eugene, in terms of do we go and buy? You know,
no, Savva, we've got people who says that we want Ben Davies to stay. Think about that, man. Right? And he's
Uncle Ben.
Yeah, did you know? 5 years ago, right, when I started doing YouTube, right, with when the OG times, we were saying, let's give Ben Davies his testimonial, bro. 5 years passed, he's getting his testimonial. Sometimes I wonder, right, is maybe Daniel Levy does actually listen to our shows, right, and he's doing this to spite us.
Yeah, he's going, I'll show them. I'll show all those Levy out people that protest against me. We'll sign Ben Davies for another year. Look, I'll tell you what, let's have a look at this because this is pretty funny. Let's have a look at this. So if we look at, don't know how we got to Ben Davies. If we have a look at Ben Davies, right? So we can see there that the first 2 years of his career, he was at Swansea City, played 85 games, goes to Tottenham in 2014. And then when you look at every year, look, it just goes on and on. And on and on. It just goes on. And every year I think, fair play to Ben Davies. You've been a good player for this club, good squad player. let's move you on. I think I first said that in about 2019. And we're now in 2025 and he's still here. But listen, the Sun, I want to bring up, somebody said earlier, didn't they, in their super chat, that the problem you've got with Sonny is he had the year trigger the year extension triggered by Spurs. And most of us said, okay, yeah, well, that's typical Daniel Levy. That's going to be so that we can get, I don't know, 35, 40 million pounds from USA, Turkey, Qatar, wherever it may be. But now if he goes on a free, Eugene, this is another player where we've had for years and years and years and years and got no revenue for them at all. So we'll be in a position next summer where everyone's going, right, we've got to replace Son. And Daniel Levy and those guys are going to go, hang on, we haven't got any money for him. Where's the money coming from to replace him? For me, that's the crazy bit.
No, but Savva, the problem is that, right? Haven't you noticed, right? We haven't had money to replace any of our players since the past few seasons.
Yeah.
Apart from, of course, you got one Madison coming in, and after that, the Solanke coming in, right? And we always know, right? We need more than that, right? We need a couple or three 50, 60 million pound players to come in to bolster our squad to bring us to the next level. But when you talk about Sonny, right? We all know this. We can't let Sonny go, right? Because apart from the football, he's so linked with the marketing side. You get what I'm saying? The sad part is the marketing side that generates the income, for these tours, the jerseys, the whatever we sell, and of course you're talking about thousands of South Korean fans that come over, right? Every home game. How much money they spend on in the club shop, right? The foreign Spurs fans that come into the Spurs sports the gift shop or whatever the shop they have there, right? They spend more money than the locals do, right? Because whoever travels out of the country, let's say for me, right? If I'm going to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium now, right, to watch a home game, right, I would have budgeted myself, right? Of course, I would have all these budget categories, right? And I would have budgeted at least, I won't say a couple £1,000 because that'd be ridiculous, right? A minimum 500 pounds, right? Just to buy something, right? A souvenir, a jersey, paraphernalia to bring back home, right? For to give away to the other Spurs fans, or people might have given me money to come and buy things for them, right? And that's the thing. In the end of the day, it's all about the marketing and the money, and especially Sonny. That's one part, right? Why we see now we're signing Yang last season, which we haven't seen him play yet. Now we're signing Takai, right? Kota Takai from Japan. That's why I've been harping, right? We've done with the Korean market now. Let's go and conquer the Japanese market. After we conquer the Japanese market, right? The Chinese market is the next market we're going to go into, right? That's when we go into the billions of people. But it is a business. We have to accept that. But when you talk about football-wise, Son Heung-min, I think the attraction for Son Heung-min.
Have you got any up and coming Malaysian superstars that we could bring into Spurs so we can conquer the Malaysian market as well?
No, the Malaysian market is too cheap, bro. Our currency is too low, and to tell the truth, right? Spurs don't even come to Malaysia anymore. They go down to Singapore. To tell the truth, it's the thing is that we don't have enough population for that market too. But what I'm saying for Sonny now is that if you look at the sense of football-wise, do the fans actually think that he can contribute something to the team or the squad going forward in the Champions League, right? Number one. Number two, right? Like what you were saying, if he takes this extension and he leaves next year on a free, it's like we've lost another player without gaining anything. But Savva, haven't you look back, right, in these 10 years, right? How many players, right, that we've bought in and actually sold out to make a profit? If I'm not mistaken, ever after since the 2008, when we saw Berbatov, Sheringham, and all those guys, right, the top players to Manchester United, Daniel Levy said, we ain't going to be a feeder club anymore, right? We're going to play smart. But we're going to back into the Levy thing again. What he did when he said play smart, right? He hung on to the players too long. Remember Ericsson? Ericsson wanted to leave. That's an example, right? But of course, when Bale was sold, of course, 85 million pounds. At that time, it was the British record fee. Daniel Levy jumped on it. Harry Kane being sold, he had no choice. Harry Kane was on his last year of his contract, right? And if he didn't take it, he wouldn't get that 100 million euros. You can say that So everything comes down to now, to me, whether Son leaves or not, I don't care that much, because to tell the truth, like what you said, if Frank can get into him, bring his old form back, even if he doesn't play 90 minutes every game, right? I'll be happy, just to see Son being able to perform, right? And to tell the truth, I think what Son wants, maybe he doesn't want to play in America because, it's America, and he has a chance to play in the Champions League again. Maybe that's what he wants, right? How many times has Son played in the Champions League? 5 times or less with Spurs? That's how I see it.
Look, it's going to be interesting. I don't know if you two have streamed together before, but listen, Connor, he's an expert with all things Levy. Do you know what? I've never known a club. Honestly, I've never known a club talk about their chairman as much as Tottenham. Connor, we're talking about this news that Sonny is staying. Welcome, by the way, mate. Welcome. That Sonny is staying, and apparently he said he wants to stay.
Nice to see you, mate.
Where are you at with this, Connor? I mean, the cynical part of us, and you're someone who goes very much into the finances and stuff. The cynical part of us says, well, this is purely for the revenue that it makes Daniel Levy in that market. If you look at Spurs home games, it is a lot of the South Koreans, and the shirts are being bought, and I get it. But talk to me like I'm an idiot, because this isn't my area of expertise. Aren't we offsetting that by letting, if he does stay for a year, then he walks away on a free? What's more, is it the money that we're going to get for another year of shirt sales and marketing, or is it the 30-40 million you could get for him as a transfer right now?
Yeah, I mean, I know people make this point a lot, but Son is definitely a huge commercial draw in career. That's without doubt. But there's no chance that is more than 30-40 million, right?
Right.
Yeah, in terms of the extra revenue we get and his wages for that time as well, right? So, from my perspective, and I love Son, he's been an absolute legend, and arguably one of our best signings ever, right, in my lifetime. But it's the right time for him to go for me.
Yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? Because I think Eugene just made a great point there. When, we used to be very much the selling club in terms of Sheringham. So we saw it with Robbie Keane, we saw it with Jermaine Defoe, we saw it with Gareth Bale, Luka Modric, Berbatov. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on. But at least when we sold those players, we got huge transfer fees for them, depending on what era we were in. Now, we don't ever seem to sell people at the right time, other than Harry Kane, who there was no way they were going to let walk away on a free. Everyone, Dele Alli, ended up going for I feel like we paid Everton in the end. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like he didn't get anything. Ericsson got 14 million quid or whatever it was. Eric Dyer went for about 5 million pounds or whatever he went for. Other than Carl Walker, who's gone from, like, who we're not selling when we could to reinvest in the team. For me, Connor, that's a big issue that we're not selling to replace.
Yeah, it's a huge issue. I think, other than arguably United, we're probably the worst selling club in the league, I would say. If you look through our sort of history of the last sort of 10, 15 years, we the only sales we really get are those big one-off ones, like a Bow, a Walker, who you mentioned. Obviously, we had Kane, but arguably we didn't even get the money for Kane that really was what he's actually worth. We're selling players, and the other thing that we've got that's missing compared to your Chelseas or Man Cities of the world is we don't have any academy players really that come through who we sell for money either. So you're always just relying really on what the club generates from its own operations rather than any sort of player trading.
Can I ask you, just before I move to Eugene, sorry, just really, really quickly. First and foremost, you lot in the chat are an absolute, utter embarrassment. 493 of you and 107 likes. We're talking about 1 in 5. Listen, if I wanted Dominic Solanke ratios, I'd ask for Dominic Solanke ratios. Get me Harry Kane ratios, please, in terms of the likes. Connor, just quickly before I go to Eugene, and again, I'm not an expert with the finances. I'm not going to sit here and say I know the year-end accounts. Is that where maybe fans like me, maybe we get it a bit wrong? I'm happy to be educated that we talk a lot about the revenue that Tottenham bring in. But do we fall down compared to the other clubs in the fact that, like you said, if Man City sell McAtee this window, Man City will get 30, 35 million for a kid that's played about 20 first-team games. If we sell, I don't know, Dane Scarlett, we'll make about 4 million quid, right? Are we falling down on that aspect as well? Does that mean there's not as much revenue coming in to allow us to compete?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, that's the way, though, that Chelsea and Man City run their operations, right? We're slightly different in that, we've got huge cash we're generating from our operations and we're not making enough of that platform. I think that is true at the same time as it also being true that we're poor at selling players as well. So the sort of crux of that is they are better at selling players from us, but that's not stopping us from being able to do more than we're currently doing, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
No, but Connor, what I see, right, we generate a hell of a lot of revenue, right? But in the end of the day, right, does that revenue actually materialize into actually profits to give us enough funds to buy players? Like what Savva says, correct, right? What Man City did is like you sell one McAtee, one Lever Colville, right, or one Cole Palmer, right? You get 50 million, 30 million pounds, right? That goes out to their coffers. We don't have that kind of level of talent in our academy to actually generate that kind of income. How much, to tell the truth, right? Let's say now we're going to sell Mikey Moore, right? How much would we be able to put Mikey Moore on the market? Maximum 15 million pounds? Because he's still 17, going to be 18, right? And he's not been actually shown to be proven, right? We don't see him play that often. If Mikey Moore, let's say, if this season comes in, right, and if Frank puts Mikey Moore out there on the stage and he, explodes, right, then maybe his price level will go up to 30 million pounds because of his age and maybe 40. Don't forget, guys, we paid 40 million pounds for an Archie Gray from Leeds in the Championship, right? Those are bad decisions. Even though you're taking a punt, to what I see, that is a bad decision. So, we will go back to, back to where we came from again. Why are we making all these bad decisions, right? Good decisions are like someone like Bergvall. We got him for how much? 15, right? And he comes in and he looks solid, right? Looks solid. That's a good decision. But the thing is that we've been making more bad decisions than good decisions. Odegaard, 30 million. Hardly ever see him. Now we've got Timo Werner 2.0 coming back in Matisse Tell, and we're paying 35 million for him, right? But then I see that problem. You know why? We are buying Matisse Tell is because, right, we don't have enough cash to go out there to buy someone else, but we can squeeze something out of Bayern Munich, right? Because Bayern Munich owes us money. That's why we bought Matisse Tell. That's my logic of Matisse Tell. It's not because that he's fantastic, he's got potential. Maybe he does have, he's 19, we do not know. Maybe Frank can get something out of him. Maybe from that 35 million pounds, I think we paid about 40 million pounds, right? We paid 10 million for his loan deal, right? For the half a year. And now we're paying another 35 for him to come in. Will he bring us back money? But the thing is that when have we actually seen ourselves do this type of business? Bring in players until they become 28 years old. We think it's time to let them go. We need fresh blood. We get a good chunk of money from them. We've never seen Spurs do that in the past 5 years. Apart from what Savva was saying, when we saw Kyle Walker was during the Poch era, right? And when Poch says that we had to, after the Champions League game, right? He was saying we have to go through a very painful rebuild. That what he was saying most probably we had to sell Son, we had to sell Kane, right? To get the money in, to go to the next level. But, that never happened, right? In the end of the day, 3 transfer windows, we don't buy nobody. That's where we are now. We've regressed, right? And that's why we are, everyone is in a speedboat and we're paddling. That's what we're doing. Simple as that.
Connor, what do you make of all that? I mean, first of all, Connor, could you just address I know you did this the other day for us. Could you address the Tell Bayern Munich Spurs owing us money situation, just so that everyone's
Yeah. Of course. I mean, look, I'd love to bash Levy with that one as well, if I could, but it's not quite. I think as people think. So a lot of people think that we just signed Tell because we could offset the money that we're paying out for Tell against what we're going to pay, what we were receiving for Kane. But actually, when you look at the accounts, the vast majority of the Kane money was due to be received before the 30th of June 2025, which has already passed. So it wouldn't have made logical sense for us to offset that against Tell, given we'd be able to pay for Tell in instalments. So that whole offset piece is not quite right. But what is probably right about the Tell signing is, and I think Savva, you made this point at the time, was it was an easy deal to make because we've already got that existing relationship with Bayern Munich, and it's a bit of lazy scouting. So I think that bit is certainly true. But this whole offset piece is not quite right because actually, basically all of the money for Kane has already come in.
Can I just have a note on this with Connor? What if, right? Because you said a large chunk of money is due to us, and Bayern Munich turns around and says that we don't have that money at the moment, but we have a bid. Maybe you can take Tell off our hands, and we do some kind of complicated contra kind of thing going on there, right? Because now we're thinking Bayern Munich has the money to pay us. Maybe Bayern Munich doesn't have the money to pay us, and Levy's stuck in a hard spot. At the moment now, we don't have this kind of money. But of course, in the end, if they do owe us money, now Levy will go and sue them for it, right? Like what Levy's suing Ineos for, right? For the contract that they've breached, right? But there could be a bit of, the offset thing there could be right, and of course the easy kind of deal thing there could be right. Could be both.
Yeah, I mean, I doubt it just because of the fact that Bayern Munich is such a huge behemoth of a football club that they wouldn't get themselves into such a situation where they're having to rely on giving us Tell to meet a cash obligation that they had before the 30th of June. So I personally think that's unlikely, and I think it would be a very odd thing for us to accept as well. Why would we accept that?
I understand. Because I've noticed what this past few seasons what the other European clubs are doing. They are not cash rich, even though no matter how big they are, because they are not as even Crystal Palace has got more cash than some of the top leagues, the top clubs in the leagues in Europe. You get what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is at the moment now, right? They are big in a certain sense, right? But they don't have the kind of money that we are sitting on because of our recent deal with Sky, TNT, and whatever, right? Is 6.6 billion pounds for 4 years, guys. Imagine that, 6.6 billion pounds in 4 years. So Bayern Munich. That's why before that, when we will go back to the Super League kind of issue and all that, right? Why did they wanted to set up the Super League is because they couldn't challenge the Premier League, right? The Spanish league didn't have the money. The Italian league doesn't have the money. The Bundesliga doesn't have the money. Ligue 1 doesn't have the money, right? So in there, they are so afraid that most of the talent will become raiding, and especially now with the Nico Williams thing, right? When Barcelona is going after him, and all of a sudden Barcelona says, I can't register players, then why the hell is Nico Williams saying, why should I go there? And now Atletico Madrid has put a 10-year contract on him, right? So if Bayern Munich, who really wanted Nico Williams at the time, if they really had that money, right, wouldn't they have dumped it in front of Atletico and said, here, this is the money that we have. I'm going to take him. I don't care. But maybe Nico doesn't want to go there. I'm not sure about that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fair challenge on Nico Williams. I mean, I always got the sense he was more interested in Barcelona than Bayern Munich. I think from his perspective, and then I think Barcelona, to be fair, do have bigger issues around being able to register players and some of the financial stuff compared to Bayern Munich. I mean, on that whole sort of, I make this point a lot about, it's probably one of the reasons why we're struggling to sell players as well is. Across Europe, most clubs are in pretty dire financial straits now, other than Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, and PSG. Even Barcelona have got some financial issues. So, look, I think that's one of the other reasons we're struggling to have any sort of credit. And I was making this point on Sean's show last night.
What I've seen,
no credible links to Richarlison, Basuma, or even Son, to be honest.
But the weird part is, right? I've been seeing the Turkish teams, right, doing a lot of business, like Fenerbahce, Galatasaray, they're getting players like that. But what you're talking about Real Madrid, right? Even Real Madrid nowadays, right, they don't go out and splash the money on like Galacticos, like Gareth Bale and all that anymore, right? Apart from Mbappe, the last time they did, right? Even that, right? They had to wait for Mbappe to finish his contract to get him on a free, right? That's what Real Madrid plans are nowadays. Wait for the players to know. It's like Real Madrid is tapping up the players. Like now, Konate with Liverpool, right? Real Madrid say, we're interested in you. You got 1 year more on your contract, right? We're going to wait for you. You guys see? Right? That's what their plan is, you know? And then, of course,
the thing is, they can do that, right? Like Real Madrid have got such a. I think this is the difference. This is where I try and bring some of the conversation back to this kind of level-headed place, right? I know a lot of football fans, as I said, like my mate Matt in the chat, who just says things like, just sign them. I love that. I love when people say that because they've clearly never spent a day in a business in their life to understand how business works. Real Madrid can turn around to any footballer in the world that's got 1 year left and say, just stay there. Stay there. I tell you what, in January, we'll do a pre-contract agreement with you. Right? Because Real Madrid, it doesn't matter whether Real Madrid finish bottom of the league 1 year. It's Real Madrid. They're the biggest club in the world, right? They can do that. The problem is other clubs have got to find other ways to attract people. And this is what I keep trying to explain to people. Tottenham, for me, gents, I think we've got a level that we can get to with players that are going to go, yeah, I'm joining Spurs. But then I think the level above that, there's a level of players where I think it's going to be bloody difficult to tempt them away from the bigger clubs that want them. And everyone says I'm negative. Everyone says you don't know if you don't try, but you do know. And I keep using these examples. We can, whoever you want, Connor, Eugene, whoever you want, right? Hang on, Eugene, just quickly. If I said Matoma, right? If I said Eze, if I say Mbuema, whoever we want to put in that bracket, that yes, should we be able to sign them? Yeah, they should be in our price range, in our salary bracket. But the moment a Man United are a global juggernaut. Doesn't matter whether they're shit. It doesn't matter whether they're skip. They find a way. They are Man United. Matoma is wanted by people like Bayern Munich. If Tottenham and Bayern Munich go in for Matoma, Matoma is going to pick Bayern Munich over Tottenham Hotspur. I know Arsenal with Eze, same thing. Our fans, I think we need to accept we're in the next level down. But what I will say is my problem, guys, with Levy is that I'm not having a go at him for not being up here. I just hate that we go in there. For me, there is a lot of players in this mid-range here where I think that's doable. But well, you know, we're going to end up with someone like Tyler Dibbling as our big signing.
No, Savva, okay.
That's my problem with Daniel Levy.
No, that's the problem, right? Who did we sign last season? We got players from Leeds in the Championship. We are not even in the Premier League bracket when we go after players. You get what I'm saying? We go after players, we are in the Championship, who are teams who are getting relegated. You get what I'm saying? That is the sad part of us, right? We have not actually built our reputation as a buying club at that level of Manchester City, Arsenal, Real Madrid, or Barcelona. And to be lucky, right? If we get players from the mid-level Premier League teams to try to bolster our team or give them a chance to shine, then we go to another level. But when you say that, have we ever signed a player from Chelsea, Manchester City, and even the youngsters? We don't go for them. Why can't we have gone for?
Look at our fans, but look at our fan base, right? This is where we're at. I think we should be looking at those big clubs and saying, right, who can't get regular minutes at the big clubs,
yes.
Right?
Yeah.
They're at the big clubs for a reason. So when I suggest...
And that's worked for us in the past, Sav, hasn't it? With the likes of Benson Kerr and Kulusevski, to be fair, you know, that
exactly. This is
yeah, I mean, look, Sav, on your point.
Sorry, just really quick.
I mean, yeah, go.
No, go. Connor, you go.
I was just going to say, on your point, I mean, look, I think when we could have arguably competed at that, not the Real Madrids of the world, but the sort of tier above us was when, you know, we were finishing second and third consistently under Poch, and that was when we didn't kick on, right? And that's the thing that people get very frustrated by.
Yeah.
I think for us now, the problem is, you know, people want to make this argument, oh, it doesn't, fuck the league, it doesn't matter about the league, right? Because, you know, we won a Europa, but footballers look at that stuff, don't they? They look at the fact you finished 17th and they go,
of course,
what's the aspirations of this project, right? And they can also see, well, we look at the history of Tottenham since the Poch era, and it's been that, right? I know we've won the Europa, but in terms of consistently competing and league performance, and players will look at that and they'll go, well, I'm not sure. So this is why we're now at a stage where we have to build gradually again, which fans won't like to hear, and I don't want that to be the case. But we need to be signing, the very best of the tier that we're in, and we need to be doing it quickly, making quick decisions on, this is the player I want, I'll pay the money, and we'll have to maybe inflate wages compared to what we normally do to attract them to come. But we're obviously right now never going to be in the conversation for the likes of Verts or some of these bigger players that are in Tesco.
But the funny thing is, guys, and I need to get some super chats. I've got some questions for you, Connor, from people in the chat as well.
Sure.
I think they like that you've really done your homework and understand all of this finance stuff. Our fans, though, we don't seem to know what we want. And what I mean by that is, we've just sat there and said, okay, what if you went to Liverpool, City, Chelsea? I mean, Arsenal, that's not going to happen, but Man United, what if you went to these clubs and said, right, who's not getting a regular game for them, but he's a bloody good player that goes into our 11? When you mention those players, guys, our fans lose their mind. So I've sat there and said, I would be going to Liverpool right now, and I'm asking about Joe Gomez, right? I'm asking about Harvey Elliott, right? I'm asking Man City about Jack Grealish. I'm asking Man City, can we take Oscar Bob on a year loan, right, and guarantee him a game every week, right? But when you name these players, our fans go, Jack Grealish, oh, he's finished. Oh, Oscar Bob, he's not good enough. Oh, Harvey Elliott, I'd rather Eze. And when you're like, sure, but what's wrong with getting these solid players that have been winners, that have been around these top players, that have been around winning mentality every week for the last 3 or 4 years? We won't settle for that as a fan base, because we seem to think that if we rock up, like, this is how stupid we are. We got fans that are going, can't believe we're letting Mbuemo go to United. Sorry, what do you mean letting? What do you mean? What letting him go there? You mean a grown man who wants to go to one of the biggest clubs in world football? We're letting him go there. Like, honestly, our fan base I think we're unrealistic, guys. I think we need to come back here a little bit, do what Poch did, build that team to the point where then you go, hey, guys, come and join our project. Look how good our project is. We've been top 4 for 3 years in a row, right? We've now got a peak. I don't know, like, let's just say Bergval's 22. We've got a peak Bergval, who's considered one of the best midfielders in the league. We've got a peak Van der Ven, who's considered one of the best centre-backs in the league. Do what we did under Poch. But everyone now thinks that we can just go straight in. And I don't know why, guys. I don't know where they're getting this arrogance from.
Savva, I look at Arsenal, right? When Arsenal were at the start of this Arteta project, they didn't mind signing Man City cast-offs, did they? They signed Jesus and Zinchenko, and it took them to a certain level. It didn't take them to the level where they could then eclipse, obviously, but you've got to do it in stages, right? So, to your point, right now, we're miles off it. We're so far off, being able to compete.
No, so it comes back to the thing that, right, during the Poch era, right, we didn't sign a single player for 3 transfer windows. That has regressed. As like I said, we're paddling and everyone's on a speedboat. They're so far ahead of us. And the worst part is, right, going back to the Levy thing again, right? We've never actually heard him say the things that, we want to win the Premier League. We want to win the Champions League. This is the first time in his 25 years of tenure he's come out to say that. But the problem is that he has to prove it if he's going to say it. But the problem is, politicians say a lot of things too, right? And they don't do it.
Yeah, but can I just listen? I don't like sticking up for Daniel Levy because he frustrates the life out of me. I do feel that comment has been taken way out of proportion by all Spurs fans. I don't feel like Daniel Levy's turned around and said, we will win the Premier League. We will win it. I think he said, like most Chem, we want to win it. We want to win it.
Yeah. But if you want to win it, right, show it and tell us how.
I get it. I get it. I get it. And unfortunately, Connor, I think the problem is they've given us, what was that, 3 weeks ago now? They've given us that lovely soundbite. They've given us that little Tinder-like cuddle fest talking about wine and stroking each other's egos. And then you're thinking, okay, right, let's see now in the next couple of weeks, let's do something. Like I'm realistic, Connor. I'm not expecting Spurs to do what Man City or Chelsea are doing, or Liverpool. I'm not expecting that. But go and get one or two of your targets over the line and go, okay, we mean business. We haven't even done that, Connor. We haven't even done that.
No, I think the problem is it's bizarre timing from Levy to come out with that sort of statement, isn't it? Because he's going to be judged on it right now. If I made this point before, if he made that in November, probably by the next summer, most people would have forgot he said it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
He's made it at the start of a transfer window when we can all judge him on it right now, and obviously everyone's losing their minds a bit over it. And it's, I agree with you. Look, I mean, in some ways he can't win because
after this, can you answer this for me? I try and speak to this guy every day. He doesn't understand that me having the ambition to want to sign top players is very different to me being a grown-up and understanding that it's not that simple for a club like Spurs, who aren't serial winners, to get those ambitious players. After just because.
Yeah, no. Look, I'll answer it now. Look, I mean, I clearly think that we should, given all of the financial platform and everything else that we've got, that we shouldn't be looking at the cast-offs of these teams. But the reality of the situation of where we are right now is we need to do it in stages, because we're not an exciting enough project, even if we pay the wages we should be paying to attract those types of players. So, all of us on it and every Spurs fan knows that we shouldn't be aiming for the cast-offs of the other big six if we want to overtake them. But where we are right now in the staging, we need to do things like that to close the gap. And then once you close the gap and you become an exciting project, that's when you can kick on. Look at Poch's team, right?
Connor, but the sad part is, right, we are not even going for the cast-off of the other big teams. You guys know, our signings have always been not even up there. And sometimes I don't even see us sign players apart from Solanke. We got him from Bournemouth, right? And where was Bournemouth when we got Solanke, right? When we got Madison, Leicester was what? Being relegated.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why are we are getting cast off from teams which are even lower than us? You get what I'm saying, not right? Or you can say we don't.
That's because I think a lot of that is opportunistic, right? In terms of there's a deal to be done. It's an easy deal to be done for Madison, right? They've been relegated.
Like Basuma as well.
They want 40 million.
Like Basuma when he had 1 year left and we went in at 25 million.
Exactly.
Yeah. Listen, I get the frustration, by the way. And listen, I'm a top. I love this, right? I'm a Tottenham fan like everyone else, right? I want to wake up today, guys, and see, oh my God, Tottenham have signed Nico Williams, right? I want to see this. But I'm also level-headed enough to know that, first of all, when you try and do a deal for these 65, 70 million pound players, it's not that unless you have disposable cash like Chelsea and City and the way they manage to do deals. Unless you've got that mega pool, you are going to have to fight off bigger clubs. You are going to be in the mix. And I keep trying to explain to people about this Kudus still, right? People saying things like, if we want Kudus, just get him. Sure. But we don't know. What if, I heard this morning Bayern Munich are interested in Kudus. I've heard that Liverpool are interested. Chelsea are interested. And then we just turn around and go, yeah, but if we want him, Daniel Levy should get him. And it's like, sure, but it's just not that simple. For me, come down a notch, scout across Europe, look at these players that are all going for 35, 40 million euros from Italy, from Spain, from France. That's where I'm shocked, Connor, that we're not shopping. I'm shocked that we're seeing these players move around Europe. And I'm going, oh, that's a great signing by Milan. Oh, that's a great signing by Valencia. That's what I'm shocked at, Connor.
Well, and the other thing is, I mean, we can blow those teams out of the water, right? In terms of financially, we can blow those teams out.
Sorry, go on, Connor. Go on.
That's it.
I was just going to say, look, those ones, the European teams, to the point we were making earlier, that's where we can really flex some financial muscle, right? Because most of them don't have it. I look at Fofana at Lyon, right? Really hot winger prospect. We know the problems Lyon have got right now. That's someone you could easily pick up. I mean, I think the thing is the devil's advocate point is, though, we've got clubs don't like dealing with Tottenham because of
Oh,
Levy
yeah.
as well, you know, and that's
Yeah,
what
forgot about
doesn't
that
help
part
us,
too,
right?
yeah.
We've got 25, best part of 25 years of history of him making every negotiation like pulling teeth. And I think this is what prohibits us a lot in the market as well, that people don't want to deal with someone that comes to the negotiation table always wanting to win. Sometimes that isn't the way, you know, it has to work. Sometimes, you know, deals you have to overpay a little bit, because in the same way when Levy's trying to sell our players and he's demanding ridiculous demands,
Exactly. Yeah.
everyone's
No,
got the
but
right to
okay,
do that,
that's
right? And
no,
so,
that's
But,
the
but
weird
our
thing.
fans only like it working one way, Connor. So
No,
do you know what I
so-
mean? Like
no,
if I sat here right now, and said, right, okay, Atletico Madrid have bid 50 million for Romero, our fans have a shit fit and go 50 million. Nah, that's got to be 70. But when it's going the other way, and again, I'm only going to use Kudus because he's the one we're talking to. When it goes the other way, we go, nah, that should only be 50. But hang on. West Ham fans and West Ham, their board are going to be like we are with Romero and going, no, hang on. You want him, you pay. There's got to be a balance, right, Eugene? There has to be a balance to this.
But there's this weird thing, right? But what Connor says, yeah. But then why did we so easily pay 60 million pounds for Richarlison, right? And we gave them Dele Alli basically free, right? And paid for his wages and his loans and all that, right? The problem is that I think we get our transfers wrong most of the time, and we overpunt. You get what I'm saying? We take chances too much on the players that we buy. And Ndombele, 65 million. It wasn't hard. We got him in, right? Remember? And he turned out to be shit. We got in Richarlison, and to tell the truth, Solanke, 65 million, right? When all of us here sitting down here, right, will agree, right? Solanke isn't worth 65 million for last season, right? But the thing,
Agreed.
we did spend that money. Sometimes I ask why. Then when you come to deals, right, and you go further back, Grealish, when we first went for him, Aston Villa were in trouble. I think it was still owned by the Singaporeans or something like that.
Yeah.
Right? And then because Levy he knew the Singaporeans were down and they wanted 8 or 15 million pounds or something. Levy wanted to squeeze them some more and to cut off another 5 million pounds. Then when the Singaporean owners found that their new when they were taken over again by another group of Americans, when they came in and they gave Levy the finger, if you want Grealish, it's no more now 15, it's 25. That's why he walked away from that, right? That's the problem. Levy does business when he tries to take advantage of people. That's why what Connor says is correct. 25 years, nobody wants to deal with it. And the sad part is, right, we don't even look at the South American market. There's so much talent there to be picked up. You get what I'm saying? So,
or when we do, Eugene, we pick up Valise, who's absolutely useless.
No, that's why we pick up Valise. Yeah, and all that. So, but the thing is, that, don't laugh, right? I think Valise is on loan somewhere, or is he sold permanently? He might come back.
Yeah, isn't he being sold this week? I've seen that apparently he's
posted.
Yeah.
3 million or something.
But by the way, there are a lot of people saying that they're talking about James Maddison for some reason. I mean, I look at James Maddison and don't see James Maddison as anywhere near an issue at this football club. I mean,
no, nor do I. I'm a big fan of Maddison.
Yeah.
Can I just tell you this, right? For all the people that are sitting and going, "Oh, I'd sell Maddison in a heartbeat," he is the only creative footballer at the club, and we're going to sit here and say we want to sell him. Let that sink in. And equally, people saying no one else were in for him. Newcastle were in for him when we went in for him and we got him. Listen, credit, as Connor said just now, I'd love to sit and beat Levy with a stick for everything, but we can't beat him for absolutely everything. Listen, let me do some super chats and then we'll get some more questions. Big up to the Aussie Frank lover. Big up to you who said, hey, my fellow countrymen are idiots. I'm not in that category. They're not all idiots, just the ones who hate me. No, they're not idiots. Big up to you, Aussie Frank Lover. Really appreciate you, my man. PMZ Films gifted a Football Heritage TV membership. I don't know who it went to because this was so long ago, but big up to you, PMZ. Really appreciate you as a member. Thank you for the membership to somebody else. And I'm sure that person has said thank you. So thank you very much. Mr. Arsenal is also a channel member for 19 months now. Said big up, Savva. Great stream yesterday. Yeah, it was a bit of a marathon, wasn't it? Listen, I'm going to let you guys into the secret of how to make money on YouTube. Start a channel, get Lubo on this corner as a guest, Sean on this corner as a guest, mention Daniel Levy's name in the middle. Just let them go. It's like those little toys you wind up and they just run. Big up to you, Mr. Arsenal. Really appreciate that. Tomo's, thfc. Thank you very much for the super sticker. Really appreciate you, my man. Looks like you're in a pool somewhere there. I wish I was in a pool somewhere right now. Big up to you, my man. Thank you for the super sticker. Finn McMullen said signing a left wing back is more important if Son stays or not. Finn, yeah, I mean, I've seen you. You're very much going down this route, aren't you, that you think Frank's going to play wing backs. If he does, I think he's already got the wing back there. I think he's already got Adogi and Porro and Spence that do that. Does he need a fourth? I think he'll be pretty comfortable. I think he'll be flexible as well. I think he'll play wing backs when he needs to. I do think we'll start with a back four, but big up to you, Finn. Really appreciate that. Ryan Trestane has come in as well and said, big up Ryan, really appreciate you, my man. Said, if we don't get rid of Son after the tour, then what the hell are we doing? His legs are gone and Kudus would need to happen soon, or it's just the same old Tottenham. Well, look, this is my worry that if Son stays, if Richie stays, if Basuma stays, it's going to be the same squad with a couple of youngsters added, and then we're all going to lose our minds. Completely agree with you. Big up, Ryan. Really appreciate you, my man. Big up to you. You also gifted a membership. You've been very generous, you lot, today. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that, Ryan. Thank you, buddy. Mark Taylor, who's been a member for 11 months. It's nearly your 1-year birthday. Big up to you, Mark. Said, we need to get the talented players before they get to the Premier League, i.e. Brighton. I think there's a mixture of that. I like the Brighton model, but I also think we should have the Brighton model over here and then better players over here. Whereas I don't think Brighton have got that pull. I think we've got more pull than Brighton, but Brighton are absolutely phenomenal in the transfer market. They are if you were grading them, they're an A+ in the transfer market for what they do. They identify the talent, they bring it in, they know whether to loan it out or get it straight in the team. They then sell it for 40, 50, 60 million more than they bought it for, and they go again. They are brilliant in the market. And I want to kick off, guys.
No, the truth, right? We should actually go over, right, and buy over the Brighton recruitment team. That would be wonderful, right?
Absolutely. And listen, let's start off. Smash the like button, guys. There's 552 of you in here, 224 likes, just under one in every two, which is better, much better than it was. But let's get that up. Smash the subscribe button if you haven't already. We're only 115 away from 19,000 subscribers. And I'll kick off with this question. Mark has asked, Connor, perform like a seal. Can you explain why Man City, Arsenal and Liverpool are basically spending double their normal budgets this summer? Massive amounts being chucked about, plus Chelsea with their open credit. Connor, tell us, why are they all spending so frivolously?
Yeah, I think the short answer is because they're serious football clubs with ambition. And they've got owners that care about winning stuff on the pitch rather than, building a property portfolio is the short, cynical answer. But the sort of longer answer, I suppose, is Liverpool obviously only signed Chiesa last summer, so they're almost doing, 2 years business in 1 year. With Arsenal, I'm not sure they are, I'm not sure they are spending more than they normally do. They had a bit of a quieter summer last year, but, for the last sort of 3-4 years under Arteta, their spend has always been around that 150, 200 million mark. So I don't think they're acting any differently to how they normally do. With City, I think they're going for a bit of a rebuild, to be honest, to get back to that very, very top level.
Sorry, not you guys. Sorry. This person who said, sorry, Connor, this person who said Newcastle were never in for him. If you Google Newcastle want to sign Maddison and look at all the articles from 2 years ago, there's the first one I come across with Sky Sports. There's another one and another one. So sorry, Connor, as you were. Sorry, mate.
That's good. No, that's fine. And then with Chelsea, look, Chelsea, this is their model, isn't it? You throw enough shit, something will stick, right? And they just continuously sign players, and as they're fairly good at selling other players, that's their sort of their model. I mean, on Maddison, just very quickly as well, just to come back to that. I mean, I feel like people have read a tweet on Maddison, that went viral, which said, he only plays for a third of the season, injured for a third, and then does nothing for a third, and just ran with that completely forevermore now. Even though, to me, I think Maddison is Spurs play well when Maddison plays well. And
Agreed.
Ange was also asking him to
Agreed.
do things that he shouldn't be doing, i.e., coming too deep to pick up the ball, because we didn't have, we had an isolated six who had to try and progress the ball. And so Maddison was having to play not in the pockets that he should be playing in the number 10 position where he contributes in terms of goals and assists. So Maddison is far from the problem at Tottenham for me. And I think to be honest, I think he's criminally underrated by our own fans.
Don't you think, Connor? For me, Thomas Frank will do with Maddison what he did with Damsgaard. He will allow that. Do you know what? Let me bring this up, right? Because when we look at, is it Foot Mob? No, it's not Foot Mob. What's the Sofa Score, isn't it? When you look at Sofa Score for Brentford, and you look at where Damsgaard played, compared to when you look at Sofa Score and look at where James Maddison was playing on the pitch. Sofa Score, who is it? Brentford, right? He allowed Damsgaard to actually get in those areas, Connor, where he can affect the game. Like as a playmaker, he wasn't asking him to be in central midfield. Can't remember how to do this.
And Maddison's a better player than Damsgaard, right? So,
I think,
Damsgaard had a great season last season, and as you say, I think he was coached very well by Frank. Frank was getting him in the right positions. But you look at the two players, Maddison's a better player than Damsgaard all day long. And so, to your point, I think once he has to stop dropping so deep to pick up the ball, I think we're going to see even more from him.
Maybe this is some kind of a club ploy, right? Where they starve the fans from not getting their players in, and whenever whoever we're linked to, right? Or when the person comes in, right, then every fan will say that he's generational, he's got this, he's that, he's going to do this, do that, right? Because you're so starved of that player, of certain players coming in. Like now, we were so hot on Eze, and now it's cooled down. We've been so hot on Kudus, now it's cooled down. We're going through that cycle again. Every player that we're hot on, then we cool down, hot on, cool down. It's like the club is playing with the emotions of the player, the fans, right? Then when the time really comes, you get so tired of being in that cycle. You say, just get me anyone, right? Just get me anyone. Right? Just as long Herter, the tea lady, doesn't end up on the pitch, it's okay. You get what I'm saying? We've been cycled in that way.
No, agreed. I mean, I think the comment just now was very interesting. I like this Chelsea fans saying, "Stay away from Brighton. That's our club." Brighton are literally Chelsea scouts, aren't they? I think the interesting thing there about the money being spent as well. I was speaking to a Chelsea fan the other day, and listen, don't get me wrong, the Chelsea fans acknowledge that they spend for fun, but when you actually look at this window for Chelsea have spent what 120 million on Gittins and Pedro, and then they spent 30 million on Delap. So they've spent what 140 million pounds, right? They are about to sell their goalkeeper for 25 million, Petrovic, to Sunderland. They're already guaranteed 55 million as a minimum from the Club World Cup. Now, if they win their next game, they're guaranteed 80 million, right? So that's 80. If they beat, I think, is it Fluminense they've got? If they beat them, whoever they're playing, that's 105 million between the World Club Cup and Petrovic. They're going to sell... who's the right winger? Our old boy, Madueke. They're going to sell Madueke for 40, 45, 50 million, whatever they sell him for. So already, and then if they win the World Club Cup, they make 120. You kind of get it. They are bringing money in, Connor, right? Like I know we all go, where is this money coming from? I'm not excusing them before. I don't want to seem like a Chelsea fan before I get told. But they are bringing money in. Like they do make money every year from player sales and all of these different ways, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think with their model, obviously, they've spent a ridiculous amount of money since Bowley and the gang moved in. Sort of over $1 billion, right, in terms of player acquisition. So that is part of the and they did a huge investment in their academy in Cobham way back when, even going back to the Abramovich time. So this is part of the reason why they're able to sell players as well, because obviously they've invested in the young talent in a way that we haven't so much, and so now they're seeing the fruits of that. But yeah, I mean, look, I think in terms, if you look at just this window in isolation, I think that the business they've done is pretty smart. It's not that frivolous, really, when you take into account what they're going to get back, obviously, but over a longer period they have. But this is because they've got their model is very different to ours. Their model is let's throw money into the team and into players, accelerate this project as quickly as possible, sign all of the best youth in the world so that we can then, if any of them don't work out, hopefully we can sell them on.
Right.
And it's just a very different model to us, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Eugene, I mean, listen, I'll say it. When I think when we complain about teams like City and Chelsea and Arsenal to a lesser degree, and Man United, I don't mind admitting it. I'm jealous. I'm jealous. What I will respect Chelsea for is they'll bring these players in. They've got no issue a year later, 2 years later, see you later, next crop come in. Tottenham, we keep them for 10 years. We keep them for 6 years. And then we're going, give them a chance, give them a chance. Are we jealous of Chelsea? Is that what it is? Is this where our hate of their transfer strategy comes from, that we don't have owners like that?
No, it's a very simple thing, right? In the end of the day, right, we are football fans, right? To tell the truth, we sit down and talk about the finance of football fans, how they buy their players, how they sell the players and all that, right? It becomes, it looks more like we're into the counting side of it. We're not into the football. But the problem is that now in this modern generation, right, when I was a football fan 30 years ago, I never thought of how much we're going to buy this player, how much we're going to sell that player, right? Because we don't go in depth into it. But because nowadays with social media and all that, the finance part crops up so much because the money is so much more bigger now. You get what I'm saying? So, of course, I'm jealous, right? But the thing is that I wouldn't have cared if Roman came to Spurs and did what he did for Chelsea. Because in the end of the day, right, Champions League title, multiple times, any Spurs fans will accept that. So, of course, the envy is there. Basically, it comes down to is that ambition and all that. And like what Sean always says, right? Risk adverse. Our owner is risk adverse and pragmatic about the business, right? That's why now we are going to suffer for another 5 years. Is because once you build that billion pound stadium, right, you have to pay it back. That's why in every sense that he moves, right, he's cautious. And maybe because the bank and the loans that he has to meet certain requirements, that's why our wages are so low. There's so many excuses for it, but some people call it excuses, some people call it explanations, right? It's more or less the same thing, because in the end of the day, you add up what is your goal, what is your ambition. Of course, being a Spurs fan, I want trophies, right? It doesn't matter whether it's the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup, the Europa League. But of course, when you talk about the Champions League and the Premier League, we are a bit too far away from that. But how do we get there? Like what Connor's saying, it's a slow process of climbing up that ladder over again, right? We have to stop buying players from Championship. We have to stop punting on players, right, in the lower divisions and hope they become better, right? And then, of course, you know what Savva would say, when they become better, when we can make a profit off of them, we don't let them go. We hang on to them until we squeeze everything out of it, until by the time we sell them, then you get the Heung-min scenario, right? You get what? 0?
Yeah.
5 million bucks. And then the best part is, remember Eric Dyer? Mourinho wanted him for what, 45 million or 30 million pounds, and we didn't want to let him go, right? And then we had to let Eric Dyer go, what, 5 million pounds to Bayern Munich in the end of the stretch. So the problem it comes down now is, like I said before, why don't we have a proper recruitment setup? Because we don't think players on the footballing sense. We look at players on the financial sense. That is where the problem is, right?
Yeah, I mean, Sav, to your question, I am jealous of all these football clubs because they've got owners that have a focus on winning trophies and maximising what they do on the pitch. And look, I know people, Sean and Johnny often talk about the selling of hotels and selling of women's teams and all of that stuff. But in a way, that all is a bit of a red herring for us, because actually we don't actually have any PSR issues. We've got over 270 million pound of space. We don't need to even worry about that. All we need is someone to actually put in the cash for us to compete and to spend, use the platform we've got. We're in the best position out of any team in Europe from a UEFA squad cost control perspective. From a PSR perspective, we're super healthy. So we don't even need to worry about this cheating loophole stuff. We just need to actually take advantage of the platform we've got.
No, mate, I completely agree with you. And please stop saying just sell Matters, get as a simple. Please stop talking like it's Football Manager. You have no idea. If Arsenal, I'll say this for the 1,000th time in the last 2 weeks. You have to remember, if Arsenal want Eze is picking Arsenal over Tottenham all day, every day. Stop kidding yourself. If Arsenal don't go in for him, then maybe we could. But please, can we stop saying it's simple? It's not simple. This is, oh my God. I tell you why it gets to me, guys. As I always say, I've been very lucky to have worked for 2 Premier League football clubs. By the way, it's not as glamorous as everyone thinks. I always say that. It's not everyone, oh my God, it's so cool. It's not. It's just a job, right? When you're there, you actually see how difficult these things are. You see the mechanics that it takes to make these things happen. Fans just say, why aren't we in for Matoma? And you're like, we could pluck any player in the world and say that, couldn't we? Why aren't we in for this player? Well, have you ever considered maybe Frank doesn't want Matoma? Have you ever considered maybe Matoma? We've spoke to his agent and his agent has said he's happy. And if he does leave, he's going to a bigger club. Have we ever thought that maybe Matoma's happy at Brighton? Like all of these things that we just say are so simple, I just think that they're not, guys.
Or maybe Mitoma wants 300K a week.
Maybe. I can't see him. Again, if you're going to be silly and rude, you won't. Ange Ball, listen, you've got no name and no picture, right? So straight away, I know you're a troll, right? You people want to keep Matters. I think where we're starting to see that you're a troll is how on earth is James Maddison the problem at top? Like I'm looking at the striker, the wingers, the centre mid. So I'm looking at all of that and going, we need better. We got people thinking that Maddison is the reason we finished 17th. It's just utterly crazy, guys. Utterly crazy. Leah said PSR figures are a smokescreen. I can spend £1 million tomorrow. It doesn't mean I have £1 million in my bank to spend.
Let me reply to that, Sav, just quickly.
Go for it.
Yeah. Look, clearly that is right. That obviously just because you've got that PSR headroom, you're not necessarily going to spend it. The point is, though, is that Tottenham as a football club do everything that they can not to show any ambition when they have the potential to. Everyone else, the Chelseas and the Villas of the world don't give a toss about PSR and are happy to do what they do to get around it because they're ambitious about what they do on the football pitch. We've got owners over a 25-year period who have averaged putting in £5 million a year of their own money. In the last 3 years, Chelsea have averaged £225 million of their own money each year, which is more than ENIC did over 25 years. So, this PSR point, yes, obviously we don't need to spend it, but what we're all asking for is when ENIC sell the football club, they're going to walk away with somewhere like 2.83 billion pound worth of profit. Can we get some crumbs off the table to compete? I think that's what we're asking for.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, Archer, I just want to refute this because when we're saying deals are always difficult to do when it comes to us, doesn't seem the case with near enough any other club. Now, I think when you say near enough any other club, I think what you mean is Chelsea, City, Arsenal, Liverpool, Man United. I'm seeing Newcastle right now struggle to get their targets over the line. Right? Newcastle, if I'm not wrong, a Champions League club like us now. Bid rejected for Elanga. Couldn't get Pedro. Why? Because he went to Chelsea. Yeah, they couldn't get who else did they have rejected? Trafford. They've been in talks with Trafford for about a month. So, guys, is it fair to say, I feel like before we box ourselves in as being the worst club in the world and Daniel Levy is the worst chairman in the world, it's not just us, is it? It's anyone that's not the big clubs seems to struggle to get these types of deals done. Would that be fair, or am I being too lenient there?
I think that's partly fair. I think I think, you know, some of the mismanagement and, you know, the points we were touching on earlier about Levy being difficult to deal with have contributed to that, you know,
Sure.
because we shouldn't be in the position we're in. But I think that's partly fair. I think look, I think the other thing is Premier League clubs don't have to sell in the same way that they had to before. You know, the likes of if we
Bingo.
were talking
Bingo.
6-7 years ago, Nottingham Forest got offered £55 million for a winger, they would have snapped your hand off and taken it straight away. Forest
Yeah,
are
yeah.
now a club who have got wealthy owners. They've got a lot of TV money coming in. They're in Europe themselves, so they
Yeah.
can play hard. They don't want to sell him, you know, so they can play hardball. And it's similar with, you know, some of the players we're going after. I think this is the reason, though, we are so linked with Kudus, to be honest. You know, the point we were touching on earlier, Sav and Eugene, around the fact that a lot of our deals are opportunistic. Well, we know West Ham want to sell Kudus, don't we? And so, you know, it doesn't surprise me. I think he's a good player and he improves the squad. But I think the part of the reason we're also in for him is because there's a deal to be done there. And we're happier to be in those ones where there's a deal to be done.
I mean, Eugene, Connor's got a great point there, right? Like, as I keep saying to people, so like yesterday, I was told, oh, if Spurs had anything about them, you go and get Anthony Gordon and Jared Bowen. And the point I made was, well, West Ham have got it's Jared Bowen. I think we would all agree is West Ham's best player, right? He's got 5 years left on it, 5 years left on his contract. He's homegrown. That's 100 million right there. West Ham are going to go, cool, you want him? Give us 100 million, because you know what? He's got 5 years on his contract. Anthony Gordon, Champions League club. Newcastle are not in any sort of financial difficulty. 5 years left on his contract. Homegrown, another one. These deals aren't as easy to do for these players now, are they, Eugene? Because these clubs, Semenyo, these clubs have money.
No, like what Connor is saying, right? And what I've been saying, right? The Premier League clubs now, right, are not beggars anymore. You get it? No. Everyone gets a fair share of the TV deals and all that. And you're talking about hundreds of millions, right? That's why we're talking about Alenga and Newcastle, right? Marinakis is crazy, you know. He's got his ambition, right? What he wants, right? And he's gotten it to Europe. And he was so upset when Nuno couldn't bring them across the line to get them in the Champions League. So do you think he's going to sell one of his best players? No, he's going to improve on them. So the thing is that for us, right, wanting to buy Eze, Kudus and all this, right, all we are going to hope for now is if the other bigger teams don't come for him, on the 31st of August this year, before the window closes, right, then maybe we will have a chance to sign him. Then maybe, if he's not already sold. That's what Spurs do. We wait until the last minute, right? But if you have some young kid in the championship or in Japan or in somewhere else in the world that comes in for £5 million, £10 million, wages at £15,000 a week, it's done, right? Within 3 weeks, right? Takai, he's coming in, I think now, because the Japanese season has just ended over there or something. He's just waiting for his contract to end. I guess he'll be landing in London this next few days to do his medical and sign the contract for £5 million, 15, 20 million, or maybe it could be less, it could be 5,000 quid a week. For all I know, we have not known what's happening there. But signing players from Premier League clubs has always been difficult for us. Look at what happened with Solanke last season, right? It took Solanke until the end of the few days before he came in. It's always like that for Spurs. We remember Ange said we really wanted him earlier, right? But we never got him.
Yeah, he's been our main target all summer, but took about 2 months to get over the line. Yeah, look. But by the way, when I say these things, I'm not sticking up for Levy. I'm just trying to listen. If I came on here and we all slagged off Levy, it would be pointless, right? So I'm trying to bring some sort of conversation and debate to the table. I think this is a really good comment as well. I agree, Gary. This wasn't the one I was going to say, but yeah, Gary, you're right. Fans do seem to think that players are just sitting in a shop window, price tag around their neck, and you go in and say, "I'll have that one, please." Got to remember,
it's not Amsterdam, bro.
It's like look at Bournemouth, right? So Bournemouth this year have sold Kirkes to Liverpool. Houston has gone to Real Madrid, and it looks like Zabanyi will get the move to PSG.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know the exact figures, but I'm guessing that across the three players, there's going to be something like 100 to 120 million pounds worth of profit across those three players. I might be wrong. It might be 90, 110, something like that. But what that means is for a club that didn't have any financial difficulties anyway, that have now had 100, 110 million pounds put in their pockets of profit, when Spurs then rock up and go, hey, we want Semenyo, right? And they go 70 million, and we all go, oh, that's too much. Bournemouth are going, don't care. We don't need the money. You want him, you pay for him. And Connor, that's where football is now, right? It is for me, you might disagree a bit here. For me, this is absolutely a seller's market. Unless a club has got real PSR issues, this is a seller's market where clubs go, you want him, you pay top dollar.
Yeah, in the Premier League, you're definitely right. I think Europe's slightly different because we know the issues they've got.
Sure.
But yeah, I think in the Premier League, it's only Villa that had an immediate PSR issue this year, right? And they've solved that by selling their women's team. So, put that aside, I think you're right. I mean, look, I think with Bournemouth, you're spot on. It's not in Bournemouth's interest to sell another player and then suddenly, all right, say they sold Semenyo for 70 million and then they've got 200 million to spend. A team like Bournemouth can't go out and spend 200 million, because they can't appeal. That's not their market. Their market is signing, cheap players to sell, so
they're not
obviously
replacing
Semenyo
Houston.
signed a new contract with a release clause, hasn't he? That's quite obvious for the future.
But they're not going to replace Houston with a 55 million pound centre back. They're going to replace Houston with a 10, 15 million pound player from Europe. And in 3 years, we'll all be going, cool, where did they find that? Right.
Hold on. I think they already replaced Houston for somebody from somewhere, for Ajax or something, for 27 million pounds.
Well, there you go.
Well, there you go. This is what they do. I mean, I'll tell you what. You guys crack on. I'm gonna look at Bournemouth's transfer market. I want to see how much they paid for Houston, Zabanyi, and Kirkes. Let me have a look at their transfer.
Yeah,
market.
I remember we were linked with Zabanyi, weren't we, at one point?
And our fan was saying they didn't want him.
Yeah. I mean, we're Spurs. We're linked to everybody. Don't forget, right?
Yeah.
There's an interesting point, though. I was talking to someone about this the other day, about this whole, signing players from the Prem. So our fans often demand that we sign Prem-proven players. That term is used a lot. But if you actually look at our history, recent history of signing players from the Prem, how many of them have been successes? Richarlison, Basuma, Solanke. Those are three, Prem-proven players that we've signed, and none of them have been good enough. I think it's interesting, when we're so reluctant to, sign players from Europe. Actually, our players that we've signed from Europe.
And apart from Basuma, we've overpaid for Richarlison, we overpaid for Solanke because of the Premier League tax, right? So no, that's why it shows that our recruitment system, right, it's all based on what called a knee-jerk kind of reaction. When you get to the last minute, when you panic, and that's where you have to shoot your load or something like that, right, to get the player in, But the thing is that if you really have made your studies, right, and go out there, like I said, we need the recruitment side to be much more effective, right, to identify players outside of the Premier League to bring them in, like what Bournemouth is doing, what Brighton is doing, right, to match our ambitions. And then apart from that, we need to develop our academy, because now we've reached a stage, right? You look at last year, because of that academy homegrown scenario, right? We had to put 5 or 6 youngsters from our academy that actually played in the Europa League, right? And now we're linked back with Carl Walker-Peters again. It's because Carl Walker-Peters fits that scenario. You can see now, he is actually our academy trained, sold back to Southampton. Now we are looking that we have to take him back, right? There's just so much problem with that.
Just quickly, so I've just looked. So Bournemouth in the last 3 years, right? They spent 36 million pounds on Kirkes. Sorry, 36 million euros. So about 30 million quid on Houston and Kirkes. And and they've had them both for less than 2 years, right? And flipped them for 110 million euros. So what's that? So they've made on those two about 65, 70 million euro profit. That's without Zabanyi, who they're going to flip. Zabanyi was bought for, if I get this right, sorry, Zabanyi was bought in 22, 23 for 22 million euros. What's that? About 17, 18 million quid.
Yeah.
And I believe the fee with PSG, they're looking at is something like 50 million, 45 million pounds. So this is what they do. This year already, by the way, Brentford have made 117 million pounds in 3 player sales. So that is Jadon Anthony, Kirkes, and Hewson, right? And they've signed a left back for 13 million euros, right? This is why when we go there and people go, oh, I want Semenyo, but I don't want to pay 70. All right, look somewhere else then. Look, that's life, right? That's life.
Yeah. They're not desperate, so we can't do anything about it, right? That's why West Ham is desperate, but they are playing the long game too. They're trying to squeeze as much out of us.
But guys, this for me is, I can't understand it. I'm looking at these clubs across Europe. I'm looking at the Romas. I'm looking at the Milans, I'm looking at Inter Milan. I'm looking at Lazio. I'm looking at all these, the Spanish clubs, Villarreal, not so much Athletic Bilbao. They run quite well, but Villarreal, Sevilla, Betis. Lots of these clubs don't have a lot of money. Very good players. We're never in there going, we want that bloke for 25 million euros. We just don't seem to do that, Connor, do we? We seem to, everyone we're going for is Semenyo 70 million, Eze 70 million, Kudus is 70 million, Eze 70. Where's our scouting?
I mean, what we should be doing, and there's a lot of comments about, the Brentford-Brighton model and whether we should be, replicating that or not. But for me, we're in a different place to Brentford and Brighton in that we are a bigger club with a lot more financial muscle, and we pay the highest season ticket prices in the country. People demand a certain level, but what we should be doing is doing that data-driven piece in combination with hoovering up the best 30 to 50 million pound signings across Europe. That sort of 30, 40, 50 million mark.
Agreed.
Where you don't have the Prem tax premium, but you can get some real talent because you can flex your financial muscle. And then over time, you get to a stage where hopefully you can start to compete at the sort of 80, 90, 100 million pound once we were talking about it earlier, got through those stages. But right now where we are, for me, the coherent recruitment strategy should be signing the best in Europe of that 30, 40, 50 million pound mark.
Yeah, but can I have a question, right? Are we waiting for Paratici to come back or something like that before we do all these European deals? Right? That's why I'm perplexed, He's supposed to be, he's still got how many more weeks before his ban is over? Or is it already over?
No, his ban was over on the 30th, midnight. So his ban's been over since Sunday night, Monday morning, right? If I'm not wrong.
Right, yeah.
I've heard that I don't know if this is true, but that he's signed as a consultative period for Tottenham until the end of August. But if he is, what are him and Lang? Listen, what are they
doing?
We might be working in the dark. Like, when you look at the Tottenham Hotspur that was nearly words. The Tottenham Hotspur website where it was like, what was it? In darkness we dare, or whatever that bullshit was they came out with. And you think to yourself, well, if we are working in the darkness, what are we actually daring to do? Because my theory is I think the Kudus deal will go tits up. I think bigger clubs will come in for him. By the way, if I'm wrong, happily be wrong. I'll happily be wrong because he walks in for me as our best winger. But other than that, where's the links? Arsenal right now, we know, are talking to Sesko and Gyökeres and Eze and Madueke and Mosquera. You're like, where's ours? We're speaking to him. And
I haven't seen us linked to a single number 6. I think it's our own fans basically saying, about Douglas Luiz and Bali.
Need a water.
Yeah. Ours is all hush. You get what I'm saying that, right? It's all hush, right? And that's what happens is to frustrate the fans, right? And then when the time comes, it's going to be a youngster again, another 19-year-old, another 18-year-old, another 20-year-old, another punt, right? And the worst part is that when we punt on these players, right, we're going to overpay them again. That's what we do. we don't focus and go. But to tell the truth, right? I've been saying this even before whatever has been happening. I mean, since Frank has come in, we have not seen what Frank does. We've not even know what Frank wants, right? Because we're all speculating what kind of ball he's going to play, right? And then, of course, everyone says that because Frank is very adaptable, he can coach them, he can do this, he can do that. But it still has to be proven, hasn't been proven yet. But when July comes now, when the preseason friendly starts, right, then we'll get to see an inkling of what we need actually, right, to bolster our squad, to make it stronger, to be at least not get embarrassed when we're in the Champions League, right? That's my
I
big
mean,
fear
Eugene,
now.
the problem is the football club, because there is not the focus on the football club that there should be. There,
Yeah,
over a period of 10, 15, 20, 25 years, there hasn't been a coherent strategy, right? You chop and change managers all the time. You chop and change who's working in the recruitment team and the backroom staff. We're now moving to this data model. Hopefully, we're starting to see a
No,
bit of
but
an
Connor,
improvement.
this data model, right, as we have always
Recruitment.
been doing it, we've been always using this data model, right? The only thing is that the data model we've been using, I do not know who is using it, how we're using it, and the worst part is that what is the focus of the data model that we're putting it into, right? Because everyone has that data model nowadays. We are in this we call era of football where football has evolved from step 1, step 2, step 3. We reach here to a certain state that, with an AI, with all the information you can get, right? It's not to say that no one is using it, everyone is using it. But the problem, Connor, is, right, in every data model, right, it's like in every program that you have, you key in your requirements. What is your number 1 requirement? What is your number 2 requirement? What is your number 3 requirement? Then you press, then it will come out a list of players, But the worst part is, most probably our requirement is that when you put in wages, it'll be something between £5,000 a week to £50,000 a week. That's why our data requirement, the list comes out, it's all shit. Right?
This is the problem. I mean, you're going to have more misses than hits, aren't you, if you have the model that we have?
Yeah, you see. But if you put in your wages at 100K to 300K, right, you come up with a different list of players from the data requirement. So that's where we are stuck now. And the worst part is, right, this season we don't seem to be linked with anybody. That's the weird thing, Savva. We've been doing shows for so long, Savva. Remember, we used to be linked to everybody in the sky.
The links now, the links now. Unfortunately, I think what's happened, the more people like me are to blame. Like people like me with YouTube channels, we are to blame. I understand that, but the problem is now is fans confuse a lot of things. Fans confuse a link to a player to we're in for a player. And these are very, very different things. So if Fabrizio Romano says something like, Spurs appreciate, let's go with Xavi Simons, right? Spurs appreciate him. Our fans go, oh my God, have you seen, we're in for Xavi Simons. And it's like, no, hang on. The wording is very, very different. The only time I want to hear it is Spurs are in negotiations for Xavi Simons. That's when I get excited. And the problem we've got, Connor, as we said, is other than Kudus is the only one, by the way, that we've officially bid for this summer that we know about. We didn't bid for him.
I think we inquired on Semenyo, didn't we, by all accounts, according to inquired, but then we're told it was 70 million and went, see you later.
Yeah. We inquired about him. We've inquired about Eze. We've inquired about Mbuemo, apparently, but none of these players we've bid for. So when fans say, I told you earlier, my funniest thing is people go, can't believe we've let Man U get Mbuemo. We didn't. Man U saw what they wanted and went, I know it's not done yet, that deal, but this is the deal we want to get done. We're going to get that done.
I think the reason why our fans get so nervous, Sav, is because after 24 years of seeing it, if you're a Liverpool fan, say under the current structure at Liverpool, and they didn't sign anyone last season, and this has been their sort of modus operandi, isn't it? To only buy when they really want to buy. And so if you were a Liverpool fan last summer, you probably go, all right, well, I trust that the club know what they're doing a little bit. But here we don't, and we just finished 17th, right? So fans are absolutely on their knees for any sort of anything that can get us a bit excited about the season to come. Because right now, obviously, we're not.
But don't you think, I mean, Connor, the one thing I would say is this. Now, don't get me wrong. I want Spurs. I've said I want a minimum of 2, ideally 3 first-team starters for this window, right? Don't get me wrong. I'd love 5, but clearly we know what Tottenham are like. For me, what I will say is this. I do think that a lot of these players, Frank will put them in their best position, get them back to basics and get the best out of them. So there is that. So from that point of view, I'm comfortable. But I don't think Frank, like anyone else, is a miracle worker. We've now got, Sean and I had this conversation yesterday, that if you look at the top 4, I think when we're talking about the top 4 now, I think they're so far gone from everyone else right now in terms of the moves they're making, where they are, especially the top 3. I think the top 3 are gone.
Yeah.
Chelsea is, for me at the moment, have got 4th, for me at the moment. And it's down to Newcastle, Villa, the Spurs, is the Man United's, if you want to put Forest in there and Brighton. It's down to those clubs now to go, right, we're seeing what these big boys are doing. How are you going to keep up with them? But I'm seeing people going, oh, well, you know, Ange got 5th in his first year, so Frank doesn't get 5th. And I'm like, hang on, at the moment, I think we're 28 points off 5th at the moment, Connor. That's 10 wins. We are 10 wins and 30 points behind 5th. So I feel like whatever happens this year, there is going to be meltdowns every week. And I'm here for it as a YouTuber, but as a Spurs fan, it's a bit crazy, right? Nothing's ever settled and calm.
No, look, I think I agree with your point about Frank in terms of, I think just having a proper manager with proper systems will get us, you know, I think that gets you back into the top 10, given the current state of the squad. But, you know, we need 3 signings in the starting 11 for sure. And then you need to do it over next summer as well to close the gap on those top 5, even with making 3 signings this summer. Let's say for argument's sake, Levy has a brain transplant and we do sign 3 players for the starting 11. We're still going to be far away from the top 4. But you start to close that gap, don't you? And I think, you know, the realistic aim for us this season coming should be to finish, you know, in the top 8 and hopefully in the European positions, and you go again. Because we're so far away now, given the mismanagement over the last 4 or 5 years.
No, I completely agree. I mean, Eugene, I'll ask you this. If Tottenham would finish 8th next season, do you think the fans will have a meltdown? And do you think they'd have a right to?
Do we get a cup?
No, but are we going to do that, Eugene?
No,
I mean,
like, I'm saying, do we get a cup? If we don't get a cup, right, the Tetra, our fans won't go in a meltdown if we finish 8. You know why? Because last season we finished 17. 8 is an improvement. Simple as that, right? Remember when we sacked Conte and we brought in Ange? Oh, we got our Tottenham back. Why? Because we were playing attacking football, right? And then when the first 10 games we won, right, everyone was, you know, wanking off. You know, oh yeah, we're gonna come. But the problem is, we all know this, right? Our fans will always accept what's been put out there. Simple as that. Because now we got Frank. To tell the truth, Frank, we will have to give him time to see what he needs to do, what kind of players he needs, and how is he going to do it. But then we come back to the question: is will the club give him his players? Because a lot, to tell the truth, my belief, right? Being a Spurs manager, you might have 20% say of what players you get. The rest is you got no choice. The club says A is A, B is B, C is C. That's how you do it. That's how Spurs runs the club. That's how what Connor say. Our ambitions is at that level, right? We don't follow the directions of what the manager wants. It's what the club wants. Then the manager gets. Then the manager has to do the best he has with him. That's the tools you have to work with, right? The tools. If you got shit tools, you get shit results. Simple as that. If you got brilliant tools, you will get the brilliant result. But at the moment, we are hoping that the manager will turn, you know, average players into better players, right? And from better players, hopefully he can turn them to good players.
Can I ask though? A question for both of you, Eugene. How will we? By the way, I'm not having a go at anyone. This is just a thought I have. How will we know And what I mean by that is, sorry, that was really not explained at all. How will we know who Frank wanted
We don't.
versus who Frank gets? Because what we do a lot, we always go, oh, club signing. You know, like when a player doesn't
Yeah,
work
yeah,
out,
yeah.
we go,
Yeah.
he's a club signing. Oh, but Van der Ven, who we really like, manager signing. So how will we know who Frank said, that's who I want versus I'll accept this? Do you know what I mean, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah,
To
I
tell the
mean,
truth,
also, Sav, on that point, I mean, we can't have it both ways that, you know, you talk about the Brentfords and Brightons and really praise their model where we know that basically every signing is a data-led club signing. And then, you know, use the other, you know, modern football now, the manager has, they have to give it the green light, but actually most transfers are not, you know, the manager isn't going out and going, oh, can you sign him? You know, he'll say, look, this is what I think I want in the squad, and then the club go and identify targets, and then he gives the
Yeah.
green light, right? You know,
Yeah.
that's the reality of how it really works. And so, and actually, you know, the one example I give on this whole manager signing versus club signing where it didn't work is Ten Hag, right? So Ten Hag clearly pushed United down the line of signing players from the Dutch league who he knew, and most
Yeah.
of them turned
Yeah.
out shy. So, you know, you have to, I think fans have to be wary of the way that actually football clubs operate now.
yeah.
Obviously, we want
That's a
Frank
great
to
point.
identify the
Yeah.
positions, but the
Look,
clubs
It's
need
a
to be
great
involved.
point,
yeah.
Connor.
Okay,
The
Sava, to answer your question, how do we know, right? To tell the truth, right? We must see the type of manager that you bring in. You know, when Conte came in, we knew because Conte said, right, who he wanted, who he didn't want, right? Mourinho was there. Mourinho was more of a blur because we knew we were getting shit players, but he still had to accept them to a certain extent. But when Ange came in, every player that comes in, he has approved it. You get what I'm saying? But the thing is that he has approved it, but he didn't say that he wanted him. You get what I'm saying? And you think of managers like you get what I'm saying? Will Pep says that, will Pep says, I want Eric Dyer, go and get me Eric Dyer, right? No, but let's say Pep says he wants somebody from somewhere, then most probably the club will go for him because he's at a different level, right? That's why the club we have, right? Number one, we have a chairman that doesn't like to be challenged, right? That's why whatever happens, right? What kind of players we get is predominantly a club signing, and it's up to the manager, right, to do the best that he can do with the player, right? And if the player can't get the best out of the player, is the weird thing is that we don't sell them off straight away. Like you were saying Chelsea, right? You bring in this 50, 30 million pound players. Next thing you know, if he's not doing well, okay, we let him go for 30, 40 million pounds. We don't make a profit. It's okay. We are so engrossed in making profits from players. Maybe that's why we hang on to them too long, right? Now, let's say Connor, you was talking about Valise, right? There's one of the South American players we bought, right? For what, 15 million pounds when he was young, right? Now we can't even offload him for 5, right? So that is the problem. That's why we hang on to them. Now that's why my theory, why we hang on to players is because we can't offload them for the prices we want. And that's
we do, but I think Connor makes a really good point there. And I think, again, I always say this and people have a go at me for it, but the difference in between how fans think transfers work and how they actually work, how they think football clubs work and how they actually work are massively, we are chasms apart. So, for example, Pep Guardiola, there might be one or two where he says, I have to have that guy. I have to. I know that I want this guy. Now, maybe I think you would have had that with a Rodri, for example. But it will be what Connor said. It will be that they turn around and go, right, Thomas, what do you, as in Frank, what is it that you need, right? And I know you won't know yet, but what is it you need? Okay, well, in the next couple of windows, I really need number 6. I need a fullback that can do this, this, and that. I need a striker that can hold the ball up, whatever. That team, the scouting team, their job is then to go back and go, right, within our wage structure, within our budget, these are the 10 players we found. What do you think? And he'll go, I don't like him. Those are good options. I will be happy with anyone from this section. Now, the people that seem to think that the manager picks every single player and they go, that's not a Thomas Frank player, or that wasn't an Ange Postecoglou player. I don't know what world they're living in. I don't know what world they're living in that they think that Ange Postecoglou would have handed a list of 10 players to Daniel Levy and gone, there's the 10 I want. Go and get me this. It just doesn't work like that, Connor. It doesn't. And football fans, I'm really bored of this club signing conversation because most clubs
All of
have
them are
club
club signings.
signings because managers have a short-term span at football clubs. You don't buy the players just for the manager's tenure.
No, no, and this is what I think. This is where people get into the wrong criticisms of Enoch and Levy, right?
Agreed.
Because some people drive it from emotion, and look, I get it because we're football fans at the end of the day, right? People drive it from emotion, and they look at, they have this example of this player we didn't get over the line, the Grealish, or they look at this, and they look at individual, football clubs are going to get it right and wrong in terms of recruitment. That's just the nature of it.
Yeah.
The thing to criticise Enoch and Levy about is the fact that they don't maximize our chance, and the strategy is not clear, and they don't maximize our chance of success because they've got focus elsewhere. That's the thing to criticize them about. They're only putting in £5 million a year of their own money over 24 years. That there is that lack of ambition is what to really criticize them for, rather than individual decisions that then come out of that. Because I think, to your point on the recruitment, that is just the way the football clubs operate now, unfortunately. And I think the reason to challenge this ownership is just about their lack of ambition.
Yeah. By the way, Ben Jacobs. Ben Jacobs was said something about Tottenham. Should I bring it up? Would that be fun for everyone to look at together?
Yeah, let's see what it's saying.
Where are we? How has someone sent it to me and yet I can't find it at all on 1347? Let me just refresh this. Sorry, 1 second. Ben Jacobs. Here we go. So Ben Jacobs has said this. He has said that he understands that Spurs and Inter have both inquired on Genoa defender Koni De Winter. No bids yet. De Winter available for around 25 million euros. Now, I'm going to be honest, guys. I'm not going to sit and pretend I know a shed load about this guy. So we'll have a look at him together. Do either of you know anything about De Winter?
No, I've just Googled him as well myself.
I'm now on the transfer market looking at him. Here we go. Koni.
He looks like he plays centre back or full back and he has played for Belgium a few times.
So let's have a look at this together, shall we? I'll bring up his page. So Koni De Winter. So interesting because that will be like centre half number 27 in the Spurs squad. But let's have a look at.
Do you know what's sad though? If he plays left centre back and can play left back, I don't hate it because I think, that's where I know we've got a lot of centre backs, but that's where we a lot of them.
But he can't be the replacement for Romero, right?
Hopefully not.
Well, we don't know, right? I mean, look, if we're gonna have a look here, so if we look at him, so what do we know? He's 23. You can see there he's 1.91 meters, which is 6 foot
6'3",
6'3", something like that. Somebody will tell us. Belgium international, 3 caps, position centre back, and we look further down. He's a right-footed centre back, so that would very much. The rumours are going to go mad now on Romero, aren't they? You can see there that his main positions are centre back, but has played right back and defensive midfield. He joined Genoa in 2024, and he's got 3 years left on his contract. They put his market value at 22 million euros, which will be in line with what Ben Jacobs is saying. Let's have a look at all of his. I want to have a look at all of his match detail. You go view full stats. So if we have a look there throughout his career, 68 games in the Serie A. I don't care how many goals centre backs have scored. If I'm going to be brutally honest with you, let's have a look at his few. So his full stats, let's see where he's played this year. So you can see there he's played 109 games at centre-back. We're looking down here now, guys, if anyone can see that. 109 games centre-back. Right back, he's played 25. 10 games as a defensive midfielder and 2 games as a right midfielder. Came through at Juventus but has clearly made his name in the Genoa first team. I don't know a lot about him, guys. I can't sit here and go great signing, terrible signing. But I guess it's a link.
It is a link. I mean, my worry is that, you know, unless it's because Romero's going, you know, it's left centre back where we lack depth. You know, if you've got
what, Ben Davis and Van der Ven. Come on,
Ben
come
Davis.
on.
No.
But yeah, given we know Van der Ven's history of getting injured as well, that's what worries me, is that left centre back position. Yeah, I completely agree with what Lucas said there as well, by the way.
I don't often like agreeing with Luke, but he has absolutely, isn't that what you need a plan for? A way of playing, a philosophy that's dedicated at the top, and then you bring in a manager and players that fit instead of flip-flopping between ideas. Absolutely. And you know what? I thought we would get that with Ange when he came in, if I'm honest. But I'm sorry, you can't build a philosophy around playing two at the back and a chaotic midfield. But listen, that's what Frank will hopefully do. But James, you join us at a time where Ben Jacobs, I don't know if you just saw it.
Just heard you, yeah. I was coming indoors as you were sort of talking about the defender.
Yeah, De Vinter. I genuinely, it's a difficult one, guys. I can't sit here and go, yeah, I like that. I don't really know anything about the lad. He could be a gem, but right-footed centre-half does suggest that surely you've got Danso, Romero and Radu Dragusin, who are all right-footed centre-halves, senior right-footed centre-halves as well.
Yeah.
Then I'm guessing, I don't know, I can't remember out of Phillips, Dorrington and Vuskovic who's what-footed, but surely that would suggest then, right, that maybe I'm putting 2 and 2 together and getting 100, but Romero, are they looking at cover for that? Otherwise, why would we look at another right-footed centre-half after Takai, who is a right-footed centre-half, is coming in? This seems weird.
It's just another opportunity, isn't it? It's another opportunity rather than buying someone for the first team. It's like, oh, he's only 20 million. He could become good. No, it's just another opportunity. That is my biggest criticism of Tottenham Hotspur. It's always opportunity signings. I hear it all the time. Opportunity for Gray, opportunity for this young guy from Japan, opportunities for the winger that come from Korea that went out on loan. It's always opportunities rather than improving the first team. And if it's going to continue like that, then Daniel Levy and the club deserve all the pelters they're going to get. You can't come out and talk about winning the league and then stick to opportunities. We need wingers, man. You need to get rid of the dead wood as such and start buying quality for the first team.
Could this be a sign, though, James, before I bring in the other two? Could this be a sign that, don't shoot the messenger, just asking a question, that we might be going to a back three? I mean, if we're looking at Takai, De Vinter, you've got Porro and Udogie who are wing-backs. I don't care what Ange did to them. They are wing-backs. Could we be going to a back three? And maybe we won't be getting these star wingers that we think we're going to get because we're going to go to that, maybe?
But maybe. But either way, you still need attacking players that are better than what we've got. Otherwise,
sure.
It's all well and good sort of going that route, but we can't be having Brennan Johnsons and Heung-min Sons who, in my opinion, passed it, and then Tells and other birds. You need to have a better front line. Maybe he will go to a back three, but even then, I still think we've got enough defenders, to be honest. Davis, the young lad coming in, you got Phillips, Vuskovic, or whatever his name is. You've got 7, 8, 9 defenders there that you could make do with. Like, either start shipping them out,
but we need more.
Improving the first. If there's an opportunity to, we do need more. All right, but only if the opportunity arises.
Maybe Thomas Franks looks at how shambolic we were at the back the last 2 years and gone, you know what? I'm going to play a 9-1-1 formation. Like I'm literally going to have a back 9. I just get the feeling that obviously we've not got him, we haven't even bid for him, but if you get him and Takai, one of the main centre halves got to be going, and it can't be Dragusin, right? It can't be Dragusin. He's injured. It can't be Danso. He signed 3-4 days ago. So by the power of denomination, it's not going to be Van der Ven who's left-footed. Am I being? Surely it's Romero, right? Surely it's pointing that way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Savva, you know, right? If Atletico Madrid, right, puts up that 70 to 75 million euros, right, Romero is out the door. No, the truth. If we do good business for Romero, right, I wouldn't mind it because it shows that we are moving in the right direction. We have to move the players on to get new players in, you know. But it could be a setback for us, you know, being fans and all that. We see the pain is there because he's done well for us. But to tell the truth, Romero in this past few seasons has not impressed me much because, you know, he gets injured often and then he will turn up for Argentina more than Spurs. That's how I feel about Romero. To tell the truth, if he goes, he goes. 70 million euros, 75 million euros, I'll take it, right? And we have to show we are willing to let players go at that rate if we have to let them go. You know, like what James is saying, Son is out. We have to let go of Son. Yes, but the problem is that we know we hang on to players, right? We got Ben Davies for 11 years, bro.
I mean,
does this not sum up the ambition, Sav, if we end up replacing Romero with Danso, who was linked with... I like Danso, right? He's good backup. But let's be honest, he cost 25 million. He was linked with Wolves. You know, he's not a world beater, right? And then this guy.
I kind of disagree with that. I think that's unfair. Because look who Real Madrid. Look who Real Madrid have just signed. He come from Bournemouth. What does that mean?
Yeah, but he comes from Bournemouth with every big club in. Yeah, obviously there's going to be examples where you sign players from smaller teams, but everyone was sniffing around Huijsen. Wolves were sniffing around Danso. You know, that's the
I think that's unfair because I judge him with my eyes.
20, he's older as well, isn't he?
Yeah, that's fair. But if we actually judge Danso for his ability on the pitch and not kind of he was linked with Wolves, I think he was probably our best defender last season. So it's not really fair to say, oh yeah, but he was linked with Wolves and downplay him because surely that means, you know, we're not judging him by what he's doing on the pitch. We're judging him by what he could have been or who he's been linked with. I don't think that's fair.
I mean, he was the best defender in a very bad, you know, in a season we finished 17th and two first-choice defenders weren't playing.
That's also not fair because, sorry, mate, I don't want to be kind of because we've just slammed Angepostecoglou for playing two at the back and saying it doesn't work because of X, Y, and Z.
That's a fair challenge.
And then saying, yeah, but you know, we was a really bad defensive. He's the best one out of a bad bunch. So is it fair to say that, for me personally, Danso is the best defender out of Romero, Van der Ven? So I would actually like to see him play in a defensive back four or five and actually give him the opportunity to run with things rather than say, you know, no disrespect, but he was linked with Wolves and could he be this or he's a backup when really he was better than Romero for me, barring the cup final where I thought Romero was absolutely solid and he's got that in his locker. I thought Danso was pretty much faultless.
Yeah, I mean,
what do you think, right?
For me, I think Romero and Van der Ven are both head and shoulders above Danso, but I do get your point that I think it's a fair challenge that Danso.
Connor, what happens?
We're not playing two centre backs who are isolated.
I've got a question. If what next season comes in, right, and VDV, if we do play three at the back or something like that, right, and VDV doesn't perform, right, what will happen with that? That's why we're bringing so many more defenders because it's going to be all trial and error at this moment in time. That's how I see it, right? And if we lose Romero, right, because we know Romero can be a good defender at three at the back, right? We've seen him being solid and all that. Right, because of under Ange's system, he runs off and disappears and leaves one defender behind. Right, that's the problem. But now, if we do play three at the back and VDV can't make the cut, we might need a replacement.
Can I ask? Right, I feel in two ways about this. And again, it's not about Da Vinci. I'm not going to sit and pretend I know anything, guys. I can't sit here and go, "Oh, what a great coup that is." I don't know, but. For me, what I do think Frank will do is when we talk about, I agree, Connor, you know, replacing Romero with lesser players. But what I do think we'll do is I think Frank will get lesser players to a degree, but more solid players that will just get their job. And I think he'll actually have, what's that saying? You know, the sum of all parts is greater than the one. If that makes sense. And maybe we might have a centre back. Let's just say we play a back three of Van der Ven, Danso, De Winter, right? I don't know, just for example. And maybe that functions really well. Maybe there's no superstar in there, but maybe it functions well. Everybody does the bit that they're meant to do, and they're part of the wheel as a cog. Maybe we do that, and suddenly we go, okay, cool, that doesn't matter. Are we focusing too much on, well, they're not as good as Romero? Because for me, I'll be honest, I've never watched Romero and gone, oh my God, you're irreplaceable. I've never, ever watched him and thought that he is absolutely brilliant and consistent. So are we worrying too much about that, Connor?
I think Romero's issue, and this is where we'll agree with James to some extent. Romero's issue has been availability and focus, right? And there is an argument to say that you replace him with someone who is more focused and more consistently available. That will improve us as a team overall, right? Romero, though, on his day, is definitely the best centre back at the club, and there is no argument about that. That is the reason why Atletico Madrid are sniffing around and willing to pay the money they are, and the reason why he's going to be made captain of Argentina.
Can I ask, Connor, why no one else? Why when Bayern Munich we're seeing are going for Lakiba of RB Leipzig? Why when Real Madrid are buying Dean Hewson? Why if PSG are buying Zabanye? Can I ask, why are none of them coming in for Christian Romero?
Well, I mean, Hewson was a bit cheaper, bit younger. Maybe they're thinking, that's part of their rationale. He's also Spanish, right? And maybe, but yeah, I mean,
you get my point, right?
With Bayern Munich,
you get my point. Why are the biggest clubs in the world not coming in? Like City, Liverpool are going for Guehi. Why Chelsea? Why have none of the biggest clubs in world football turned around? Our fans keep telling me he's world class. Why has no big club turned around and gone bang? So I'm just asking the question.
Yeah. So what we said,
I mean, Atletico would be, but yeah, it's a fair challenge on the others.
What we said yesterday is on Sean's channel is, I think that part of it is to do with Daniel Levy. I do believe we said this. Yeah, I believe part of it is, say for example, we value Romero at 50 million, for example. They know the moment they speak to Daniel Levy, that 50 million is starting at 70 million. And it's going to take a 3-4 week period of hustling and bustling to get down to 55 million or whatever. And I think, I mean, I do it with some customers. When I speak to some customers, they go, Carl, sometimes you're better like, yeah, see you later, love. I can't be arsed with this. And I generally do believe that other clubs have the same thing, because it's not just Romero, it's anybody. We do not sell anybody.
No.
So,
or maybe they're not as good as we think, James.
Yeah.
I agree with you that Levy's a pain, but what I'm saying is, our fans keep telling me, oh, Savva, you're harsh on Romero. He's world class. He does this. Cool. All right. All these big clubs are going after centre halves. I've not seen anyone even test the waters with Romero. I've not seen anyone put in an opening bid to Tottenham for Romero.
No, apart from Madrid, right? But what my feeling is that I've been saying this, right? Romero gets injured too often, number one. And then when he recovers, right, he gets, maybe his heart is more for Argentina than the club, right? Maybe that's why players, the clubs, the bigger clubs see that, right? And they can't have their top defender, right, being out of the seasons for 6 months every season, right? And every time when he comes back, right, he's like top 4 for the country. But then when he comes back into the club, he becomes, mediocre. You get what I'm saying? So maybe that's why he doesn't attract the top clubs.
Oh, no, I agree, which is the reason why I don't think we can build around him and Van der Ven. That is why I think we're looking at centre halves, because Van der Ven and Romero, we all say it was just Ange. If you actually look back at their careers, they have been injury prone throughout their careers. And I think it's a sensible thing to do, if I'm honest, guys. I think it's sensible not to build around both of them. Maybe you get away with one of your main centre halves missing half a season, but when both of your centre halves do, don't you have to counteract that?
Yeah, but that's why I'm worried about the lack of left centre back depth, Sav, to be honest.
Sure,
you've got, with particularly, and it depends what you view Spence as, right, in terms of a right back or a left back and where he's better. But this is why, for me, we need to sign someone who's a left centre back / left back hybrid who can fill in as cover for when either Van der Ven or Udogi's injured. And again, there's not really any links to that.
See, I do agree, but I just personally feel like I think Romero there's a good player in there. You need the right coach to unlock that good player. You need the right system because let's be honest, Atletico are known for being absolutely rock solid. They wouldn't be linked with Romero if they knew that wasn't the case. So they've seen enough for him to be like, okay, there's a player in there that we could use. I again, like we've said before, Savva, quite a lot. We have to see what Frank can do. Frank's a coach, so I think it's one of those. Seeing how he acts and how he can get the tunes out of the players he can, but also for me, I don't want to be linked with another defender until we've signed a 6, or a defensive 8 if we're going to play a double pivot or a winger. That's the priority for me.
Completely agree.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, no, I get it. I guess half the problem is we don't really know what Frank's going to do. I guess we all sit here and say, well, our back four is Porro, Romero, Van der Ven, Udogi. That was our back four last year. We don't know if he's going to go with a back four, he'd go with a back five. We don't know if he does go with the back four. Maybe he sees Spence as I don't know, right? I'm just maybe he looks at Spence this summer.
But one thing you say is very true, Savva, right? The defense, right? They need that cohesive understanding of what to do, and don't look like headless chickens when they're being attacked. That's the most important thing. So, like now, what you're talking about, right? With Ange, Way, and style, right? We do watch alongs like Savva, and we get so frustrated whenever we get attacked, and then we are cut up, like it's like a hot knife through butter, and our defense is all over the place. So now maybe what we need, this is maybe what Frank is trying to do, is to bring in more youngsters and try to build an understanding, because you can't build an understanding between the defenders overnight. It takes time, right? It might even take up to 6 months to a year for them to understand when this guy is gone, I have to come back and cover a certain hole, right? And because last season, right, whenever our defenders all went up, right, the holes were all over the place at the back. So maybe Frank has seen that, and maybe we need a few more defenders to cover all these holes. That's how I see it. And whether Romero stays or he goes, right, let's hope we get the money and we spend it well. That's all.
Yeah, it's by the way, I'm just looking at
Gold's tweet.
Alistair Gold has written an interesting article. It's actually quite. I'm skimming it. as I'm hosting this, but he's addressing why Tottenham haven't moved yet, and the headers. He's talking a lot about Tel, Danso, and Vuskovic. We'll have to pay out for Vuskovic. Looks like the 12 million is going to go out now. Talking about Takai. There's a whole section talking about waiting for investment, that apparently everyone's waiting for investment because Spurs are, he talks here about Spurs being asset rich, not cash rich. Then he talks about the much needed wage structure. He's talking about Thomas Frank's squad analysis, talks about the uncertainty in the club trained issue, lack of decisiveness. But again, guys, all of that is great. And I'll give it a proper read when we've finished. But it's the same every bloody year, isn't it? Like we go.
Yeah. It's just
changed.
Every football club is asset rich and not cash rich. That's the way football clubs operate. They don't make money, and we actually are in the strongest position. It's just so painful year after year. This shite that's peddled out, that's not peddled out about any other football club because they're serious about making signings. This all comes down to the fact that when we do need the owners to give us some crumbs off the table of the massive return they're going to get, they're not willing to do it. And we're going to continue to have this forevermore until we need go. It's just tiring, isn't it?
Yeah, it's well, the thing is, Pete, I just want to. I don't think anyone can be our most valuable and important player if they're not getting on the pitch every week. I think this is where I struggle with this one, guys. We'll come back to the Alistair Gold stuff in a minute. I'm not doubting Romero's ability as a footballer, but if you can't get him on the pitch more than you can, how can you then say that that person's your most important player if they're not on the pitch every week? I can't make that work in my head, guys. I'm sorry. I'd rather someone that's available week in, week out. For me, that's where I'm at with it. And I get the feeling, guys, don't know what you guys think. I don't think he wants to be here. I've said this a million times. I don't look at Romero and think that is a guy who's 100% committed to Tottenham Hotspur.
You know what I think with Romero? I think Romero, and this is just general thoughts, I think he actually wants to be here and he likes the club. I just think he hates the ambition of the club. So I don't know if that makes sense, but I think he would happily stay here and be part of it. But I think he wants to see ambition. He wants to see these signings. Like, let's be honest, he's looking at this and going, well, we was linked with Eze, we was linked with Kudus. Like he's also there thinking this is a joke.
Mm. Oh, James, it's the same thing, right? All big players, all world-class players, right, want to see their club have ambitions and win things. And when you come to Tottenham Hotspur, right, it doesn't happen. And he's been here for 3 years. He's seen the shit gone by, the type of players we buy. So he knows it. That's why he says if he goes to Madrid, right, and of course Simeone is there, they're Argentinian, they will link up, right? They have the understanding, and the way that Simeone plays most probably suits his style too. You get what I'm saying? So for Romero, like what I believe in Savva, what Savva says too, his heart has not actually been here because we've seen it happen for 2 or 3 seasons, right? Like I've been saying this. Argentina calls, he's not injured. When Spurs calls, he's injured. And of course, last season, Ange did that stupid thing against Chelsea to put them out there when they weren't ready, right? Which actually pushed their development backwards. So for Romero, to tell the truth, if we get the money, I'll just say adios, right? Good luck on your next endeavor. You won us the cup. You were one of the main leaders in that Europa League final. You lifted it. You felt that glory with all the fans, right? The love from all the fans, right? But now you sit here in this summer transfer window and you're looking at what the club is doing. The fans see it. Don't you tell me the players don't see it? Come on. Right?
Yeah, I think the key thing for me is the last bit on Romero. I think when I talk about him, I think people confuse between me thinking he's a good player and his availability. As I've always said, if Christian Romero played 38 league games a season, plus 10 to 15 cup games a season, however many we play, and was fit for every game, I'm sitting here going, well, this isn't even a question. This isn't an issue.
Yeah,
but
that's a fair challenge.
He misses so many games that when people go, oh, we should build around him. Who builds around a player that misses half a season most seasons?
The same argument could be made with Van der Ven as well, right?
Absolutely, Connor. But the difference with Van der Ven, right, is that Van der Ven's not being put on the same pedestal that Romero is because of his age, because of because Romero's won World Cups and stuff. Van der Ven, I feel exactly the same about Connor. Really good player. He's got the world at his feet. But again, if he has another year this year where we're seeing more games where we're talking about, oh, Van der Ven's injured than fit, at some point you've got to ask the question, what do you do for the good of the club?
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah. You can't build around a player when he's not there for half the season.
Agreed. By the way, listen, I know Alistair Gold is a mouthpiece for the club. Listen, I just thought it was an interesting article. Alistair Gold hasn't written anything in there that's groundbreaking. It's just a good summary of different issues at Tottenham. But
same issues.
The one thing he's talking about in there is about Frank assessing players and us changing manager slows things down. But I mean, if that's the case, somebody must have said to him, well, what do you think of De Winter? Somebody must have said, like, do you know what I mean? Like, what do you think of this guy? And he must have said, sure, yeah, I'm interested. It just all feels very strange right now, guys. I feel like we're about to be taken over or something. Otherwise, it's just gross incompetence.
I'd agree with that. And I completely disagree with that comment as well. Ali Gold is a mouthpiece for the club. If he thinks that, he doesn't know how German journalism works, because that's not how he is. He does criticise the club and he does say bits and pieces about the clubs in his videos. So if he was a mouthpiece for the club, they would just fire him. He's an independent journalist that covers the club. So I don't agree with that, to be honest. I completely agree with what you're saying, Savva, about though something is going on, because if it's not going on, then more for Daniel leaving. He deserves the wrath that I believe will come in the protests and the hate that he gets, because there's pressure on him at the moment.
But Savva, I believe it's just gross incompetence, right? Because we've just seen this over and over again. It's not the first time that we've not been here before, right? We've been here before as Spurs fans, right? Over and over again, right? Like I said, we will do all these panic signings on the 31st of August, right? Just before the window closes. We've been doing this. We do this all the time, guys. That's why. Why can't we just, right, sit back and watch who we've been linked to and watch the link disappear, right, from Eze to Kudus to whoever is going to be linked to us, right? And then in the end of the panic, last bit of the transfer window, that's when we'll go in and pick up a few youngsters around, and hopefully we get one first teamer, like what we did last season with Solanke. Simple as that.
Can I just address a comment in the chat quickly, because obviously someone's not capable of listening properly. Stop saying we need cover players as backups. We need players. I've said several times we need at least 3 first-team signings, but my point was in
who said the comment?
Mr. Box Office said, "Stop saying, Connor, we need cover players that are backups."
Mr. Box Office, Alex.
I haven't said what I've said is in
at
defense.
the moment, Connor, this is Alex's go-to. This is his go-to line. Alex, you're more than welcome to join. Listen, yes, go on.
Yeah, I was just going to say that we need a number 6 that starts, and we need 2 attacking players that start. My point was in defence, if Romero doesn't go, I think it's more about signing cover in defence, because I actually think the defence is good enough once they're playing in a proper system.
I tell you what, I wish I was bloody on the payrolls, but I'm not sure.
I was on the payroll too, yeah.
Savva is on the payroll.
They don't pay the wages.
No, he did say further down. He said he was joking.
Oh, sorry, that was very funny. Yeah, really good joke, that one. But look, it's with the Alistair Gold piece, I think what we want to see as fans, right, is I reckon if you go back a year ago, you'll probably find a very similar article written by him or Matt Law or Ben. You know what I mean? You've got these articles that seem to come out every year as to why we can't do it this year. We're not quite ready there, Connor and James and Eugene. We're not quite ready. Next year, though, next year, we'll be in a much better position to strike. And I think everyone's got really fed up of that now, haven't they? Everyone's just like, come on, let's stop these excuses. You built this stadium for a reason. Can we please just go out and get these first team signings in? Otherwise,
I don't ever remember. I might be wrong. This is more a question. Have we ever been in this position where we're continually told we don't actually have the money to spend? Because normally we spend it on bad players, but I feel like this summer we've continuously been told we are not cash rich. We have no money to spend. Whereas I don't feel like I've heard that in numerous windows. It's always been link, buy someone for overpriced. I can't remember such being told there's not enough money to spend.
James, what I think it is I think you've got these pretend accountants who think that they can, know what they're talking about when it comes to the finances, and they've seen that our cash flow has reduced, even though it's still the highest in the Premier League. And they're trying to make a story of it. And as you say, because what we have had in the past, we have had rumours we have to sell to buy, haven't we, in the past?
Yeah, sell to buy thing, yeah.
But you are right. This seems to be the strongest that we've had in terms of them, making a point about cash flow. But I think it's because there's nothing else to make a point about now, is there?
So it's almost like a new phase, isn't it? Oh, we're poor. Like it's almost like a new, like get the kids involved. Oh yeah, no, we can't afford him, so we'll like shopping our means.
James, it's just another excuse.
Alex, come on. Alex, I think the problem is, I think what happens here is you throw a generalization of a sweeping statement rather than listening to what Connor said. What Connor was actually responding to, tell me if I'm wrong, Connor, was we were talking about De Winter, and he was saying, I understand it more if it was a left-footed centre-back that offers competition to Mickey van der Ven. you know, what he wasn't saying was, oh, let's just go and buy backups. The problem you've got this in your mind now, Alex. This is your new thing I've noticed. Backup. Everyone's saying backups. I feel like you're just going off on this thing and you want to shout at Sean, you want to shout at Connor. Feel free. You've got my WhatsApp. Here we go. I would banter you to pieces, mate. Get on, Alex. I'd love to see you and Connor have a little bit of a back and forth.
Alex can't even banter himself. Let's get it right.
Alex.
Let's get it right.
Alex. It's madness. But I mean, listen, it's nice that we've been linked with someone. Somebody's just messaged me and said, I've heard, don't shoot. I've heard that Frank wants to play a back three, which for me makes sense. Guys, it does make sense from the squad we've got and from Takai and possibly De Winter coming in. But what I do think that will have to mean, guys, is I do think that it will spell curtains for Phillips and Dorrington from a future perspective at the club. And I do think that it will mean that one of the big boys at the back will be going. I don't feel that you can keep buying centre-halves and possibly keep them all happy.
And what about Vuskovic, right? If he comes back, if he comes in, right? We got Vuskovic too. Will he go on loan or will he be put into the first team? You got another question for that?
Yeah. I agree. For me, though, I'll be honest. I want to see people like Vuskovic go out on loan to a proper club. So, no, that's really demeaning. I want to see Vuskovic go out on loan in a proper league and play week in, week out. I'd like him to go to West Brom with Ryan Mason. Yeah. Go and play week in, week out at West Brom. Help get West Brom promoted or into the playoffs, whatever it may be. Show everyone that you're ready at that level. Because otherwise, guys, we have got a plethora of centre halves. Like we have got a plethora. That is Romero, Danso, Van der Ven, Dragoshin, Ben Davis. That's the five. Then if you're looking at De Winter, Takai, Vuskovic, Dorrington, Phillips. Have I missed anyone? 10 centre-halves. Now, if you're playing a back three, right, and then you have 2 or 3 more, I get it, and then 2 or 3 of them leave, I get it. But if you're playing a back two, 10 centre-backs, it's a lot in it, guys. That's a lot of footballers.
That's true. Yeah.
Just trying to find him in their squad list. I can't even find him. What's his name? De Winter.
De Winter, yeah, he's at Genoa. Yeah, we brought up his. I can bring up his details.
Didn't Dragosin come from Genoa too?
Who?
Dragosin came from Genoa too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
Let's have a look. Yeah, I think you're right on this one. Yeah, I think you're right, but I mean that will be in the last few windows 4 new centre backs, wouldn't it? But Dragosin, Danso, De Winter, and Takai.
Yeah.
Nah, Savva, De Winter is just another link, right? We ain't gonna get him, you know that, right?
Mate, I have no idea. Yeah, by the way, he was from Genoa. He was from Genoa, but yeah, I don't, guys. I don't know. Listen, I only want to go for another 5 minutes or so, but I genuinely think that the only logical reason I can come to in my head is that we're going to go to a back three for all of these centre halves to be bought. That's the only logical reason. We'll see. Would you guys be happy to go to a back three with Porro and Udogie as the width? Because we don't have proper width, do we?
Could he be going to a back three and push in Brennan Johnson and Solanke as a top 2? Kulu and Maddison behind?
What about Son?
You know my opinion on Son.
Yeah,
I know, but if all the reports today are that Son is staying, surely you want Son and Solanke rather than Johnson and Solanke, right?
Could
No.
be a matchup.
No, you'd rather Johnson up top in the 2 than Son.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the one thing
you know James, right? Yeah.
No, the one thing I actually praised Brennan Johnson for is his ability to be in the right place at the right time to get those tap-ins. So I think moving him into a centre striker role, I think that could be a bit of moment of genius, to be honest. Have him in the
Can he
box.
do the other striker stuff, James?
That's why if you have
the ball up, I think
maybe
centre halves will go and he'll fall over. He can't hold the ball up. Is he technically could? For me, that should be Son.
Couldn't if he was going to have two up the front? Couldn't you have Solanke holding the ball up and Johnson like running? Not comparing the two, but almost like the Jermaine Defoe role where he's always on the last man, ready to sort of pounce. Could he be?
Never put those two in the same sentence.
Yeah,
again.
sorry, mate. Yeah, sorry. I'll leave now.
Next, you'll be saying, "Can't tell, do the Bale role," with the. Matisse Tell. Maybe Matisse Tell will be up front with.
Second striker. Yeah.
Maybe. There's a lot of ifs, buts, and maybes. But
so is it fair for us to then judge the fact that we haven't signed any players? If Tommy, let's say Thomas Frank has got 6 to 7 different formations ready to go, and he wants to say, right, Tell, I want you up front with Solanke, right? That don't work. Johnson, see how you right? That don't work. Is it fair to say that he could be saying, right, I'm going to go 3 at the back and have Danso centre, Romero, Thingy cover?
I love it when people have a go at James Flower in the chat. I love it.
Come on, let's have a debate.
Come on, Vader, come on. Get on.
No, but for me, we're all so passionate about Tottenham, hence why we all kind of have the feelings we do. But could it be a matter of Frank said, look, let me get everybody in. I've got 7 different formations I want to try out and see how they do, what their movements like, what their work ethic's like. And then you could go back and go, no, crap. And it could be the players that we think, James Maddison might not work. Because if you look at, what's the guy he had at Cam last season, the Danish guy? He had Damsgaard. The amount of miles that geezer run, he could be saying, right, Maddison, you can't put the legs in. We need someone like a Kudus. We don't know what he's going to do. So we may be jumping the gun a bit early. I saw Porro back today, so I think it's going to be the next couple of days everyone's coming back. So
yeah.
I agree. Can we just touch on this before we wrap the show? Can we just tap on this that James Maddison can't cover the ground? Few people have now said that. This man covers a lot of ground. Like I don't feel that people understand how much ground. I want him to cover less ground. I feel like he's doing too much. Do we?
Yeah,
where are we at with that?
That's how I feel. I was only going by the stats of Thomas Frank's last team, not so much what I would do. I would have James Maddison literally just sitting in that hole, pinging the passes, just using for his passing ability.
That's true. Yeah, we just want him to be a creative midfielder, right?
You can't really compare Maddison with what Frank did with Damsgaard in terms of working hard at Brentford, because Brentford are not a team that generally has more possession, right? So Damsgaard is naturally having to work harder because Brentford don't have the ball as much as what we would expect Spurs to.
I completely agree, which strengthens my argument, Connor, is in.
Sure.
I think that this was James Maddison last year, and for me, the red blurb on the left-hand side is where we saw him most. That red blurb for me should be centrally. that red blurb should be in the central areas where we see James Maddison.
But Connor, who's to say that this season with Frank playing, right, that we're going to have more possession? We don't know. That's the thing, right?
We'll have more than Brentford.
Of course, we might have more than Brentford, but yeah. But I don't think, right? I don't think we're going to see the possession stats like Ange had, right, with 60%.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah, that I don't see, because to tell the truth, right, with all the possession that we had, we did nothing with it. That's all. Most important, you have the correct possession, right, to do the correct things. That's the most important thing, right?
Yeah.
Know how to defend. Yeah, know how to defend when you needed to defend. Do what you have to do when you're in midfield, right? And the strikers, right, the forward team have to be clinical. That's what I hope what Frank is going to turn out our squad into. That's all I'm going to say. Yang, okay, yeah, QPR, yeah.
But by the way, Chris, I love this. I hear this all the time. Listen, what have I said? I've always said Brennan Johnson's a good finisher. Like, that is not my problem with Brennan Johnson. My problem is that if he plays out wide, right, and if he plays through the middle, you've got to do more than just finish. If he's going to be playing up front, Yeah, you've got to remember this is very different. This is where I think people get it wrong, guys. Ghosting into the box at the back post and getting tap-ins, whilst being an art, is very different to playing centre forward. When you are playing centre forward, you are making different runs. You are asked to occupy centre backs. You are asked to take them out of the game. You are asked to go physically against them, run the channels with them, hold the ball up. These are all very different skill sets than just tapping the ball in. My question with Brennan Johnson is, from what I see with him as a footballer, right? Not him being able to finish, as a footballer, I don't look at Brennan Johnson and go, you can do that job. I just don't. I think as a centre-half, if I'm on the opposition team and they're going, oh, Brennan Johnson's up front today, if I'm a decent centre-half worth my salt, I'm not worried. I am not worried. I am thinking physically, I'm going toe-to-toe with him, right? Physically, I'm going toe-to-toe with him. Positionally, I'm going toe-to-toe with him. In the air, I'm battering him, right? Physically, like I think people need to be really careful for what we are. I don't want Brennan Johnson up front for Tottenham in any way, shape, or form. Just me.
I made this point yesterday about Johnson, right? In terms of, and I'm not diminishing his ability to finish or be in the right place at the right time, because that is a positive, I think. But sometimes the sum of the parts, to our earlier point, can be better than,
Exactly.
And, his complete lack of impact, if he's not doing that, who's to say if you don't replace him with someone who does impact the game all of the time, doesn't mean that the team overall is better. I think that's the argument we make about Johnson, isn't it? Now, I would still, for this season, keep him as an option.
Sure.
Because I think there's an argument to say, let's say argument's sake you bring in a Kudus. Against low blocks, Kudus is going to be a lot more effective than Brennan Johnson. But perhaps when we're playing the bigger boys where we want someone who's going to hit on the transition with pace, maybe that's where Brennan Johnson does come into his own a bit, where he isn't being asked to beat his man or whatever. So,
this guy, right, Mr. Bob is brilliant. Mr. Bob, this is brilliant. Johnson not good enough. Listen,
Alex,
one
time we're going to have to get on a podcast together because, yeah.
Oh, Alex will bottle it. Alex, I'm joking, Alex. I'm joking. Listen to what Connor's saying, though. Connor's not saying this is his main man that goes every game. He's saying that he's an option for certain scenarios. And I agree. But
does Alex know we can only pick 11 players? Yeah, I just want to make sure that we've got that base level of understanding. There's 11 players that can get on the pitch. Yes, in an ideal world, we want the players that fill in for the 11 to be as good, but they're never going to be quite as good because otherwise we'd never know what 11 to pick. So you're always going to have a strongest 11 and then hopefully a very small gap to the covers. Just want to make sure we're all on the same page. I want us to improve our starting 11. There we go.
No, I agree. I think you've got to ask the question. You've got to ask the question. If you look at these teams that defend properly, they will love playing against Brennan Johnson as a striker. That is the problem. I'm not saying he won't get some goals, but my criticism of him will still be what it is when he plays on the right. In those games where he's not scoring goals, it will be like playing with 10 men. That's the problem with him. Look, guys, I'm going to leave it there if it's all right with everyone. I am back tonight at 10 p.m. I'm going to have a show tonight. I'm sure people can join in and everyone will be allowed to join in. Just before we go, Mark has put in a 99p super sticker. Big up to you, Mark. Much love to you. And you followed that up by saying, hi, Savva, great show as always. I would like to become a member. Let me show you all how you become a member. I can't use my own show. It won't let me do that. I'll show you Sean's. So on Sean's page, you can see there that you've got the two big grey buttons. One says subscribe, the other says join. If you press that join button, right, it gives you the options of memberships. All right, if you press that join this channel, it gives you the options of memberships. So that's all you have to do. Type it in on YouTube, go view channel, and then you can join. Big up to you, Mark. Really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Mark Taylor, another Mark, putting a super sticker as well. Big up to you. Very, very generous. Really, really do appreciate that. PJ Berlin, thank you very much, has put in a super sticker as well. Very generous people today. Really appreciate you all. And Facts Only said Johnson is good as a sub. Listen, if Spurs have got anything about us next season, Facts Only, Brennan Johnson should be a sub coming on to make an impact. If Brennan Johnson, Solanke, your forward line in a team that are going into the Champions League, I truly worry. I truly worry about that level of that level of play. And just to end the show, Alex has said, I reckon he's saying, not handle me, Connor, but shown he could not.
He might be right, to be fair. He'll bring me down to his level, and he's experienced at that lower level. So
hey, love it. Alex, get on tonight, 10 p.m. We'll get Connor back on. Listen, guys and girls, I will be back tonight at 10 p.m. for an emergency stream, a Spurs version of an emergency stream, and I'll probably title it something really magnificent like "Where the fuck are our signings?" or something like that. Join me tonight, 10 p.m. Eugene, thank you very much. Really appreciate you, my man. Please get over to Spurssuasion TV. Connor, please, thank you very much, Connor. Get over to his X page, which is at Levynomics1882. Thank you very much, James. Are you on X? Do you want anyone to follow you there? Do you give a shit? No, it does not.
Give a shit, mate. I'm just in the background. Just
love it.
Keep me in my own lane, mate.
It sounds like the Spurs scouting department. We're just in the background doing absolutely sweet F-all. Big up, everyone. Take care. Much love. And as always, come on. Levy out and come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.